Chapter 81. Using illusion on the noble Otsutsuki? Silly! It hurts my head, it hurts so much! Fuyamanaka's agonized scream came from the shadows where he had been hiding, looking for an opening to seize Izanami's body and help Danzo-sama obtain the Rinnegan. Invisible yin-release chakra had infiltrated him, chakra that was repelled and scattered by an unseen natural force before it could fully take hold, leaving savage backlash on the user. Fu clutched his head, rolled on the ground, eyes bulging as if they might pop out. Izanami felt nothing. The chakra never reached him. He watched the spectacle in cold silence for a moment, then muttered two words in his native tongue. Idiot. Using Yamanaka clan techniques, mental yin-release ninjutsu, on an Otsutsuki, especially one who'd awakened an ultimate dojutsu, was suicide. An Onutsuki's resistance in everything but taijutsu and nature-based powers was superhuman. This was only a red-tier Otsutsuki bloodline. A true pureblood from beyond the stars would be even more resistant, potentially immune to ninjutsu and even genjutsu at the level of bloodline net and god techniques. That kind of immunity made 99% of shinobi despair. Continue. Area suppression, Danzo Shimura ordered, his voice cutting through the darkness like wind release. No one paid much attention to Fu's wails. 4 root operatives tore a small opening in the barrier and formed hand signs. They spat ash into the enclosure, instantly making the interior murky. Before the barrier could close, they gritted their teeth and ignited the ash. Flame leapt like a fuse, swelling into an orange-red blaze poised to cause a cataclysmic explosion. Shinra Tensei. Izanami's repulsive force scattered the ash and flames and slammed into the barrier. This time, the shockwave was extraordinarily powerful. The barrier ballooned and deformed violently. It didn't shatter, but the 4 shinobi maintaining it watched in horror as the distorted barrier squeezed inward toward them. The flames on the barrier didn't heed their will. There was no time to dispel it. The barrier contacted their bodies. Ah! Their screams cut off abruptly. The 4 violet flames formation vanished in an instant. The repulsive force shoved outward, shattering the stone bridge overhead and raising a choking cloud of dust. The already dim underground base turned pitch black. Izanami, who'd been about to turn up the 4 violet flames formation to test its limits, paused and glanced at the 4 bodies charred beneath the ruined bridge. He shook his head, whispering, "What a pity. Fine leaks." His eyes suddenly flashed. Without hesitation, he unleashed the repulsive force again, wiping out the invisible nano-sized insects that were trying to infiltrate him. Ninjutsu of every color pelted at him from all directions, but none could touch him. They were scattered mercilessly by the repulsive field. The root operatives had learned the nature of his ability and stopped trying to trap him behind barriers. Instead, they turned the floor to swamp with earth release and fired various long-range techniques to force him to keep using that repulsive storm, all while gathering intelligence for Danzo. "Why haven't the other teams arrived? Didn't you relay my order?" Danzo asked from the shadows, looking at Fu, who had recovered enough to answer. "I notified everyone," Fu said through clenched teeth, still holding his head. "They must have encountered enemies. I sensed a few chakra signatures earlier, probably this person's subordinates. Their chakra isn't strong. Unless they're taken out one by one, those teams won't be a match." Danzo's expression softened a fraction. He turned to Aburame Tarun, who had failed several sneak attacks, and asked, "Tarunin, any more insight?" "Yes, Danzo-sama," Tarunin nodded. "This technique is peculiar and powerful. It can repel and scatter every ninjutsu, and its cooldown is extremely short. But it has flaws. To produce a powerful invisible storm, he needs to charge briefly. When he converts chakra into that technique's nature, a green shroud forms around him. If he tries to cast continuously, the second instant cast, if there are no structures nearby, is like an enhanced wind release. Great breakthrough that repels all ninjutsu. If someone has enough physical training, they can endure his second cast. He seems aware of that, so he seldom instant casts. He prefers to charge in place or lift into the air, which is actually the best time to strike. Tarun hesitated and left the sentence unfinished. Fuyamanaka filled in the rest, watching Izanami, who remained held under the roots covering fire. His yin-release chakra is extraordinarily strong. The Yamanaka clan's secret techniques are useless against him, and genjutsu might be the same. To force him to reveal a weakness, you can't let him charge, and you can't even allow an instant cast. That's almost impossible. The insects tell me his chakra reserves are massive. Trying to wear him down in an attrition war may be impractical, Tarun added. Flight, offense, and defense in one, a technique he can use practically without limit, and the massive summons he used earlier. Could this be the power of the Rinnegan? Danzo's gaze on Izanami burned with greed. The legendary wielder of the three great dojutsu shouldn't stop at only those abilities. It was time to act. Danzo already had a plan. He removed the bandage from his right eye and unfastened the device, sealing the Sharingan on his arm. Making a few discreet hand signs, he signaled Fuyamanaka and Shino Aburame. Both immediately nodded and vanished with the body flicker technique. To everyone watching, Izanami seemed constrained by the roots covering fire, forced into a passive war of attrition. But in truth, he was having the time of his life. Every so often, beams of color, blue, green, sometimes purple, whistled through from a direction and penetrated obstacles to enter his body. Each time one struck him, a system prompt sounded in his mind, and he decomposed the entry into points. His points climbed, random 2-digit, 3-digit, even 4-digit numbers each time. To Danzo and the others, it looked like they were suppressing him, but to Izanami, the root operatives were treasure. He couldn't bring himself to be ruthless. If these elite shinobi accidentally killed themselves, he would be as heartbroken as if he'd lost all his savings. If Kato represented the richest man in the world, the root was a veritable goldmine of points in Izanami's eyes. Danzo's selectivity had made the root elite, Chunin with green entries as a baseline, Jonin with blue qualifications, even Bloodline users with purple entries. Very few were single entry. Most started with 2 or 3. On the outside battlefield, puppets had to make many kills to drop a green entry. Killing root operatives yielded abnormally high drops. Almost every 2 killed resulted in someone dropping a green or blue entry, sometimes even double drops. Izanami had never seen such a high drop rate since acquiring the talent entry system. A tear prickled at the corner of his eye. Finally, his good days had come. The anxiety of leveling too slowly, of being outpaced when the Shippuden era began, when aliens arrived, and the shinobi world stepped into the age of bloodline nets and god techniques, had finally evaporated. Chapter 82, Your Dotsu Before These Eyes, is worthless. Shinra Tensei. He unleashed another repelling storm, scattering 5-element ninjutsu launched from every direction. Izanami's gaze flicked away from the Black Ho family, who were locked in combat with other teams, and toward a shadow to his left. A figure in a black robe and a half-mask burst forward, charging at him with terrifying speed. Earth Release, Swamp of the Underworld. At a signal, the root operatives stopped their other attacks. One molded the earth beneath Izanami, turning it into a sucking, fetid swamp. Mud hands erupted to grab his feet and drag him under. This trick had been tried before. Izanami would simply float, release a repelling force, and avoid being swallowed. He did just that. Izanami rose into the air, spread his hands, and murmured, Shinra Tensei. The invisible repelling force tore through the flailing mud hands and the charging Aburame Tarun. As the storm hit Tarun, his body dispersed into a cloud of black insects, the Aburame's insect clone secret technique. The insects were swept away and destroyed by the repelling wind. Just as the storm dissipated, someone surged from the churning swamp. Fuyamanaka, streaking forward, his body alight like a living torch, clearly covered in explosive tags. Have you found a flaw in Shinra Tensei? Of course you have. After all this fighting against so many elites, you'd be incompetent if you hadn't. Fuyamanaka yelled as he threw himself like a human bomb at Izanami. Izanami chuckled. Then show me what you've got. He released another repelling gust, this one far weaker than the earlier Shinra Tensei, a level below. Nothing in this world was perfect. Even divine techniques had limits. Izanami's repelling and attractive forces had one advantage over Tendo Pain's, a shorter cooldown. Nagato had to transmit chakra through yin-yang receivers to let the Six Paths body cast Shinra Tensei. Even the weakest Shinra Tensei required 5 seconds to convert chakra into that repelling force. Izanami's own cooldown was 2 seconds. Without charging, his Shinra was more like a powerful wind with repelling properties. Still dangerous, but not at the same level. The gust struck Fuyamanaka midair, sending him crashing back to the ground. Before he hit, he detonated in a blossom of firework-like explosives. Izanami descended calmly and quickly cast another Shinra Tensei, scattering the forming mushroom cloud. When the smoke cleared in the crater left by the blast, there were no limbs or blood, only a puppet made from materials. Fuyamanaka had been a puppet all along. Izanami's face showed no surprise. He'd seen through it long ago. As the wind faded, Danzo Shimura appeared like a flash, his two fingers aiming for Izanami's left eye. Izanami adopted a calm, Tendo pain-like composure. "So, you finally decided to show yourself. Danzo Shimura, today is your day of death." Danzo's fingers halted a few centimeters from the eye. He studied the Tendo pain figure, took in the black metal nails in the eyes, and muttered to himself. "No, that's not the Rinnegan user I remember. So the red-haired boy died, and you took his eyes." Hanzo's confessed everything, and now he's gone. "The hidden rain is Akatsuki territory," Izanami said, offering the prize he'd brought to Akatsuki. Then, with only a glare, he unleashed a powerful repelling storm that sent Danzo flying. Danzo's mouth curved into an odd smile as the wind threw him away. His body blurred like a mirage, and he reappeared in front of Izanami, two afterimage fingers stabbing at the left eye. "Izanagi," he vowed, activating his trump card. Those unfamiliar with Izanagi would be stunned. Even Uchiha Shisui, renowned for his speed, had been ambushed by this tactic. Danzo had used it before and succeeded. Now he reused it. There was no gap between being repelled and appearing again. Izanami had just cast Shinra Tensei and couldn't respond instantly. Dark, purple-patterned eyes gleamed with greed. "The Six Paths' eyes will be mine," Danzo thought. But Izanami's own speed was faster. Having sensed something off in his reincarnation eye, he whipped out a hand, snatched Danzo's wrist, and met the astonished man's glare. "You're good at finding Shinra Tensei's weaknesses and devising counters," Izanami said, "but strength cuts deeper. The gap between us is too great. Farewell, Danzo Shimura. Izanagi." Danzo, already in the Izanagi state and utterly unafraid of death, threw everything he had at Izanami. The right eye's three Tomoe Sharingan spun into a whirl. The Tomoe coalesced into black lines, forming a shuriken pattern. The Mangekyo dojutsu he'd cultivated for years, amplified by Hashirama cells, poured into Izanami's mind. In the next instant, both their spirits were dragged into a blood-red realm, a genjutsu world like Tsukuyomi. A moon-sized eyeball hovered in that crimson sky. Its pupil matched the black shuriken. The great eye rotated like a living thing, its will materialized in searching for a target. The target appeared, not Izanami in a puppet body, not his main body, but Danzo Shimura. "How am I here? Did Izanagi fail? That's impossible," Danzo cried, bewildered. He'd expected to draw Izanami into an illusory space where Izanagi could destroy or rewrite an opponent's will and make them his puppet. Instead, he found himself materialized in the genjutsu, staring at the shuriken-eyed eyeball. Panic crept in. He searched the space and could not find Izanami. His will could not return to the Izanagi above. He formed hand seals with a heavy heart, intending to release Izanagi again, only to discover he could not. "Why can't I release it? Isn't this an Izanagi genjutsu?" Could it be that, swish, two long cracks split open in the crimson sky above the shuriken eyeball, rending the blood-red heavens. Blue-white light burst through like sunbeams vaporizing the gloom. The oppressive red dissolved into a beautiful blue-white space, radiant and serene. As the rifts widened, a pair of enormous blue-white eyes appeared in the sky. White, flowing light wrapped around the pupils in wind-like patterns, exquisite and containing overwhelming dojutsu power. If the Izanagi eye had been a moon, these new eyes were twin suns. A voice, no longer the cold, distant tone of Tendo pain, but a young boy's, resounded through that blue-white realm. "Your dojutsu, before these eyes, is worthless." The twin eyes flared like midday suns, and white light poured down, swallowing the space. The moon-like Izanagi eyeball dissolved into dust at a touch. It didn't even explode with a sound. Danzo's spirit, still in that genjutsu world, smelled of death. "This isn't the Rinnegan, and you're not that Rinnegan kid. Who are you?" he screamed, desperate. "This old man demands to know who sent you. If you have no grudge with me, let me go and know." He never finished. The white light consumed him. His spiritual form and the entire genjutsu space folded into nothingness. In the real world, only an instant had passed. Root's operatives saw Danzo's wrist still held by the enemy and his right eye blazing with the shuriken Mangekyo. But then some members with sharp eyesight and sensing abilities reacted in horror. The shuriken pattern in Danzo's Mangekyo Sharingan had suddenly reverted to a normal 3-tomoe Sharingan. The light in his eye vanished. The yin release chakra in his head was gone at once. The Izanagi effect on his body collapsed, and every Sharingan along his arm closed. Without the yin release chakra suppressing the Hashirama cell grafts in his arm, the tissues linked to the living mechanism began to writhe as if something inside was tearing them apart. The rot and agitation crawled up the arm, trying to burrow into his torso to wreck everything. Rip, Izanami reached out and tore the entire arm away. From first to last, Danzo did not scream. Alive but half dead, he slumped there, a living husk with vacant eyes. Izanami sighed faintly. The strongest genjutsu, it lives up to the name. No one but Izanami knew what had really happened. Yamanaka's attempted yin-release infiltration had failed outright. It had been repelled by Otsutsuki resistance and the ultimate dojutsu's yin-release. Danzo's Izanagi, however, had penetrated that defense and tried to seize Izanami's will, only to be crushed from within. Izanami's reincarnation eye was still evolving, not yet in its final form, but even in this second stage, it was an ultimate dojutsu that surpassed the Mangekyo Sharingan. Danzo's attempt to rewrite or destroy Izanami's will failed. Instead, within the Izanagi Genjutsu, his own spirit and will were annihilated by the reincarnation eye's power. Izanagi could not override that. This was not a simple illusion. It was a status suppression, a dimensional reduction from another plane. "It's over," Izanami said softly. He glanced toward a darkened area, then looked at the stunned Root members who hadn't recovered. At his command, several figures sprang up around him. The Black Hoe family puppets, animated by shadow clone control, each able to use Izanami's 5-element ninjutsu and far stronger than they had been in life. Izanami shifted from passive defense to offense, actively employing all creation of attraction and Shinra Tensei to support the puppets. Watching the puppets fight without worrying about opposing ninjutsu, the repelling wind scattering enemy techniques while the attractive force guided the puppets toward foes, Izanami's lips curled into a small smile. Through observation, he'd finally understood why ordinary puppets don't raise drop rates the way human puppets do. It wasn't because shadow clones or normal puppets lacked chakra. It was because those puppets were directly Izanami's techniques. Human puppets, though, had something different, a corpse and a heart. To use a bloodline limit possessed in life, a human puppet needs its corpse intact and its heart undamaged. Only then can chakra input into the core be converted via the heart and meridians into the nature transformations and abilities the bloodline requires. In game terms, this was an alternate team-up mechanic, a special coupling that shadow clones or ordinary puppets simply couldn't replicate. Chapter 83. I can take what the village has, but I have what the village doesn't have. When Izanami got serious, the members of Root were powerless in an instant. The gravity and repulsive forces he unleashed made escape impossible. All their ninjutsu and secret techniques were mercilessly repelled and scattered. Genjutsu did nothing. Even those who tried to slip into the shadows were inevitably tracked down and cut down by puppets specialized in lightning release. Within minutes, every Root operative was dead, except Danzo Shimura, left a vegetable, and one person who had been deliberately spared and was now hiding in the dark. As the Root bodies fell, beams of colored light shot from their corpses toward Izanami, green, blue, purple. System prompts flooded in, chanting, "Decompose, decompose, all decompose." Izanami chose to decompose them all. His points soared, the bar flashed Tazamin. He felt both satisfied and uneasy. One Root had just given him over 80,000 points, nearly a tenth of an unknown-level fragment, a fortune. Root-type units were rare in the ninja world. For someone like him, who could repeatedly farm entries, they were a perennial money tree. Ideally, he could take his harvest and leave, returning later for more. But Izanami disliked being coveted. He wasn't about to save Hiruzen Sarutobi just to be targeted by Danzo. He had missed the Konoha Crush opportunity once. He wouldn't let another chance slip. Even if he could force a public kill now, the chakra fluctuations from his transformation technique would risk exposing him. He already had ties in Konoha. He did not want to be branded a feared rogue ninja. With a few gestures, he ordered the shadow clone he had stationed by the Nanga River to send a team of puppets to load the corpses into large ceiling scrolls. Then, using gravity, he lifted Danzo and walked away. When Izanami and the puppets left, someone hidden near the ceiling exhaled heavily and then held their breath again, afraid to use their secret technique or to flee. Still, the impersonation of Tendo Pain, the abilities it displayed, and the conversation with Danzo were all burned into that watcher's memory. At a mountain wall beneath the Hokage rock, Izanami pressed his hand to the stone. The repulsive force he emitted struck the rock like a battering tide, shattering stone, metal, and seals until a hidden entrance blew open. Inside was a secret room with shelves of scrolls in every size and color, divided into three main areas: intelligence, ninjutsu, and secret techniques. The forbidden jutsu section was conspicuously absent. Danzo didn't have forbidden jutsu scrolls? Izanami didn't buy it for a second. That was another reason he had left Danzo alive a little longer. He walked to the secret technique shelf and skimmed it. He smirked. Danzo had openly collected the Yamanaka, Nara, Akimichi, and Aburame clans' secret arts, things even a Hokage wouldn't dare to snoop on. That audacity said as much about Danzo's power in Konoha as it did about his reach. What the village had, Danzo hoarded. What the village didn't have, Danzo still possessed. It was definitely right to remove this tumor early. Izanami scanned the shelves until he found what he wanted, a small red scroll sealed with the words, mind-reading technique. Since I haven't awakened the spirit ball yet, this will do for now, he murmured, and opened it. The scroll taught the Yamanaka clan's mind-reading technique, the method that let them dominate interrogations. With the yin release chakra of the ultimate dojutsu and the automatic nature transformations granted by his reincarnation eye, Izanami could learn ninjutsu like a cheat. His gold-level chakra control magnified that advantage. Only the reincarnation eye itself eclipsed it. Without this skill, he might have duplicated some high-level wind techniques or struggled to combine 2 or 3 natures into deeper arts. If he couldn't further refine this talent, his next move after upgrading the Otsutsuki bloodline would be to raise chakra control to a new red-tier rank. Ninja art, mind-reading technique, he declared. Setting Danzo on the ground, Izanami placed his hand on Danzo's head. Yin chakra flowed into the old man's mind and began to read his memories. In short order, he learned what he needed. So everything's kept in the clan compounds. Reckless indeed, Izanami said under his breath. He signaled his shadow clone, retrieved a puppet, and drove a blade into Danzo's neck. The puppet's movement was clinical. Danzo's life ended there. Purple and blue beams of light leapt from the corpse into Izanami. He chose to decompose the body. His points shot past the 100,000 mark. Izanami dragged Danzo's corpse back out the way they'd come, making sure the person hiding in the darkness saw the corpse with their own eyes. At the same time, dozens of puppets poured into the secret room and emptied the shelves. Danzo's elite subordinates, trained over decades, the ninjutsu and secret techniques he'd acquired by any means, the intelligence gathered at the cost of countless agents, it all went to Izanami. The Konoha Crush plan had barely begun. Most villagers hadn't even reached shelters, yet half of Konoha's foundations had already been plucked away and placed in Izanami's hands, along with a close friend of Hiruzen Sarutobi who'd already passed. But even that wasn't enough. Izanami stepped out of the underground base, shot a glance down Central Street, a small smile twitching his lips, and then vanished. Chapter 84. Shinra Tensei, All Creation of Attraction. Shinra Tensei. Izanami's main body and the puppet army controlled by his shadow clones were busy scavenging the corpses of Root and the allied shinobi in the streets. Meanwhile, one of his shadow clones, transformed into the Tendo Pain body through transformation jutsu, used the Rinnegan's visual abilities to slip into the Hokage building unseen. Konoha's headquarters was one of the village's most heavily guarded places. Even in the chaos of war, the Hokage building was ringed with anbu, surveillance arrays, and sensing barriers. If a fly tried to get in, the anbu could normally swat it before it landed. That was why the moment Izanami entered, the sensing squad went on alert. Captain Tenzo, there's chakra inside the Hokage building. but we can't find its location on surveillance. The intruder may be using a hidden jutsu or a Kekkei Genkai similar to a clear release, the sensing team reported. Understood, came Tenzo's voice over the comms. Hold the barrier. We'll handle the intruder. Izanami watched the exchange through the Rinnegan's sight. He was not surprised to be detected. Testing Anbu vigilance had been part of his mission, but there was still a job to do. He vanished and then burst into the sensing squad's room with a single, explosive impact. The door exploded outward. Before the Anbu could react, he raised a hand and shouted, "Shinra Tensei!" A roaring, repulsive storm tore through the room. Instruments and monitors shattered. Devices and papers were flung into the air. The sensing ninja were hurled like rag dolls into the walls, and falling debris inflicted secondary injuries. Izanami moved among the scattered bodies with calm efficiency, channeling chakra into their pressure points to knock them out. The sensing barrier over the Hokage building collapsed. Outside, a line of puppets that had been waiting for a signal slipped inside with the clone's help. Izanami made a show of sweeping through the room, as if searching, then suddenly drew his blade toward the unconscious Anbu, when two voices cried out in the dark. Earth release, swamp of the underworld. Wood release, tree wall. Vines erupted from the walls and the floor, turning the room into a thicket of wood. The floor turned to swamp, but instead of attacking, the muddy hands sank downward, while the vines snatched and wrapped the knocked-out sensing ninja, bundling them like zongzi, with only their heads left free and hanging them on the walls for later rescue. Other vines shot toward Izanami like octopus tentacles, some hardening into spear-like thorns aimed at him. Izanami didn't hesitate. He pushed out a focused, repulsive force, Shinra Tensei, shattering the wooden spears and tearing through the vines. The blast also accelerated his descent. He plunged through the gap the wood release had created and into the underground levels beneath the Hokage building. On landing, a thick black snake lunged toward his foot, trying to bite and connect to his shadow. A moment later, Izanami located its source, an Anbu in a cat mask, hands locked in seals, running shadow imitation technique. As a mere shadow clone, Izanami had no desire to gamble with shadow binds. He launched himself up and gathered chakra in both hands. Shinra Tensei! The repulsive force detonated like a gale. The underground base collapsed outward. Support pillars, equipment, and even the floor itself exploded under the pressure. The Anbu, who had tried to surround the intruder, were thrown with terrifying force. Some collided with walls and were badly hurt. Others tumbled to the ground, winded but alive. Tenzo, the most skilled among them, used his composure to form hand seals mid-flight and conjure vines with wood release, slamming them into a net that slowed and caught him and the others. When the dust settled, Tenzo barked orders. Get out of here and find reinforcements. Notify Jiraiya and the elders. The intruder is beyond what we can handle. The surviving Anbu obeyed immediately, clutching their injuries and slipping away through alternate exits. Izanami let them go. His real target was Tenzo. Suddenly, the air around Tenzo thickened. An invisible force seized him and yanked him off his feet. All creation of attraction, Izanami cried, and a gravitational hand dragged the captain toward the ground. Tenzo's voice dropped. So that overwhelming storm was repulsive force. He formed seals and answered with a desperate counter. Wood release, deep forest emergence. The hollowed-out underground transformed. Seedlings erupted and, as if accelerated, grew into towering trees in a blink. The sudden forest shoved aside the gravitational pull long enough for Tenzo to climb onto a high branch. He intended to form wood clones to probe their enemy, but before the plan could take shape, he heard the shout above him and felt the air distort. Shinra Tensei! From Izanami's center, a compressed, repulsive field expanded like a dome, a translucent force that rolled outward and smashed everything in its path. The trees that had sprung up were brittle against it. They shattered into splinters before they could even bend. Tenzo had nowhere to dodge. He dove into a tree hollow and forced up a barrier with desperate seals. Wood release, wood golem wall. A ring of wooden pillars rose and arched into a protective cocoon. For a moment it held, but then a thunderous crack ran through the wood as the repulsive force battered it. The pillars splintered and collapsed. The vibration was so violent that Tenzo slumped, stunned and unconscious, buried under splintered trunks. Above ground, several figures raced toward the Hokage building, moving fast enough to cover distance in heartbeats. Leading them was a tall man with white hair, Jiraiya, towering at nearly 2 meters, a figure rare in the ninja world. Feeling the tremor from below, he called out as he flew, urgency slicing his voice. "Are you certain the intruder wears a black cloak with red clouds, orange hair, and those purple ripple-like eyes?" "Yes, Lord Jiraiya," the Anbu confirmed without hesitation. Jiraiya's face shifted between shock and an odd, painful hope. If the description was correct, an old pupil he had thought dead might be present here, alive, and bearing the Rinnegan. He wanted to rush down at once, but his mind spun with darker possibilities. "Yahiko, what have you been through all these years? Why are you in an Akatsuki cloak? Why is Nagato's Rinnegan in you?" By the time Jiraiya and the Anbu reached the underground floor, Tendo Pain's body and Captain Tenzo were gone. All that remained was a crater, gouged deep into the earth as if a meteor had struck, the surrounding rubble and shattered trees framing the rim. The sight hit both Jiraiya and the Anbu with the same cold dread. The scale of the technique was terrifying. Tenzo's fate was uncertain. For Jiraiya, there was no doubt. This was Rinnegan power. A terrible premonition settled over him. His former disciple had strayed down a dark path. What had happened to him in all these years? No one knew that Root and the Hokage building had been infiltrated by powerful enemies. Fewer still realized a fourth party was moving silently through the chaos, cleaning up the battlefield and hauling away the bodies of the fallen. At that moment, the Konoha shinobi were working together with grim efficiency. Some escorted villagers to the shelters, others delayed the enemy to buy time and protect their comrades who were evacuating civilians. The plan was simple: survive first, strike back later. On the examination grounds, the fighting was still fierce. The first Hokage had been resurrected by Edo Tensei and used wood release, advent of a world of flowering trees, to conjure a forest that hid much of the action. Only the experts in sensing and those with the Byakugan could see the duel between Hiruzen Sarutobi and Orochimaru, and even they could tell the third Hokage was in trouble. On the stands, Kakashi Hatake and Might Guy, 2 elite jonin, had been tasked with protecting the audience. They were engaged with Sound Nin and a scattering of sand shinobi led by Kabuto Yakushi. Elsewhere, Gaara and his siblings had been captured by Izanami and a group of rookies. When the Konoha crush began, Hinata and Shino, who reacted quickly, and Uchiha Sasuke, Nara Shikamaru, and Hyuga Neji, who had not been caught by genjutsu, attacked Temari and Kankuro. Because Gaara had faked sleep with the feigned sleep jutsu, Temari and Kankuro dared not use body flicker to spirit him away. Overwhelmed by the rookie's reckless assault, the Sand siblings were quickly defeated. Had Kurenai Yuhi not intervened in time to warn them, the rookies, bold and brainless as newborn calves, might have killed them, oblivious to the fact that their value alive was far greater than dead. Gaara, having feigned sleep, surrendered his body briefly to Shukaku. The tailed beast's chakra poured out, surging through the sand and rapidly condensing Shukaku's form. The massive chakra surge helped Gaara blunt the secret skill, Luminous Light Cannon, a devastating fusion of 3 nature transformations. But just as Shukaku's form began to take shape, the beast's mind was pulled back into Gaara's body. Gaara's upper body still protruded from Shukaku's head. Only the sharpest senses noticed, one of Izanami's shadow clones among them. That shadow clone, not particularly durable but opportunistic, seized the moment. Seeing Shukaku not yet fully awakened, the clone darted to the head and punched Gaara's unprotected face. The strike shattered the sand armor, jolting Gaara awake. Shukaku's enormous body dissolved into endless waves of sand, forming a huge pile across the arena. Before Gaara could even clear his head, Izanami had him slung up and carried to the spectator stands. "If you move, I will kill you," Izanami whispered into his ear. "Don't kill Gaara," a woman's voice pleaded, fearful, urgent. "He's my brother. He's worth more alive than dead. Please don't kill him." Temari's voice, usually cold, even terrified of Gaara, was raw with appeal. Gaara's emotions tangled, but there was no time for him to process them. Kurenai barked a command. "Hinata, seal his chakra. If he breaks free, cut off his limbs. He cannot be killed." "Yes." Hinata moved at once, using gentle fist to seal Gaara's pressure points. Her Byakugan bulged at the temples as she watched his body, ready to shout if anything went wrong. Izanami's voice slipped into Hinata's ear a moment later. "How is Hanabi?" "Don't worry. Father already left with Hanabi," she answered. "That's good." Izanami relaxed, prepared to stand guard. The main players in the Konoha Crush plan were Hiruzen Sarutobi and Orochimaru, master and disciple. Izanami was a mysterious fourth force, taking advantage of the chaos. Kurenai had no intention of letting them influence the war. "Take these prisoners and come with me," she told Izanami and the rookies, indicating the captured Sand siblings. They detoured away from the square toward Konoha's interrogation department. The Kazakage's children would know things, and Kurenai wanted answers. Sand and Sound Ninja harried them en route, but Konoha reinforcements arrived. Freed of pretense, Izanami rose and used his secret skill Judgment. The beam he unleashed could be compressed into a fine, searing laser or spread into a wide-area strike. The shrunken form was a weakened, luminous light cannon. The sight left the onlookers awestruck. Sasuke's eyes flared. He nearly drooled. The Chidori suddenly seemed insignificant. He decided, then and there, to practice water release and beg, stalk Izanami until he would teach him judgment. A sudden, furious curse from Izanami ripped through the tense air and pulled everyone back to the present. He turned and, abandoning Kurenai and the rookies, flew off in a single direction. Hinata's eyes sharpened. She left a phantom image and followed without a word. Kurenai and the others exchanged puzzled looks. They looked toward Izanami's target and saw it. A massive, three-headed snake rampaging through the village, smashing buildings. Exploding tags and 5 elements ninjutsu hadn't stopped it, only enraged it. Its tail swept and destroyed a 2-story detached house. The house belonged to Izanami. No wonder he swore. Before the snake could do more, a white beam tore down from the distant sky and struck the middle head dead center. The beam constricted before their eyes, turning from a raging electrothermal strike into a precise, surgical laser. With a single slash, the 3-headed serpent was bisected, its body dissolving into white smoke and returning to Ryuchi Cave. "What? Such a powerful lightning release," someone breathed. "It's not lightning release, it's storm release, judgment." The new prodigy everyone's been talking about made the move. He can even use flying ninjutsu. Word spread like wildfire. Konoha reinforcements moved at once toward the remaining battle lines. The sight of Izanami descending spurred them on. Izanami landed amid the rubble, mouth twitching. "My main body and those clones, they're useless," he muttered to himself. His criticism was harsh, but not entirely unfair. Izanami's main body had been busy gathering roots and Danzo Shimura's valuables. One shadow clone had been cleaning up the Nanga River with puppets. The Reincarnation Eye's holder had been overwhelmed. Another clone had been protecting Ranmaru. Yet another had infiltrated the Hokage building to take Tenzo away. None of them had noticed the snake. It had slithered in from the village entrance. In the original timeline, its fate was to be crushed by the great toad summoned by Jiraiya. But Jiraiya had been called away by news of the Tendo pain and ran to the Hokage building's underground base. All of it was a stroke of bad luck for the 3-headed snake and for Izanami's house, which it had chosen to destroy. Hinata was immediately at his side. "It's okay, Izanami-kun. Houses can be rebuilt. As long as we're safe, that's what matters." "Still," Izanami said, scanning the ruins with the Byakugan granted by the Reincarnation Eye, "find the scrolls. The scrolls hold my savings and our photos." Using his eyes, he located the items under collapsed beams. "Hinata, take care of those guys," he said, nodding at a few sound ninja who had crept up. "Yes." Hinata's chakra surged. She formed 2 purple lion heads of energy and used a lightning release technique to accelerate her body, appearing before a sound shinobi in a flash. Her palm strike devoured the chakra in his meridians and pushed external chakra through his skin and organs. He vomited blood and crumpled, finished. With the Hyuga clan's advanced secret skill, Gentle Step Twin Lion Fists, Hinata dispatched the remaining cannon fodder easily. By the time she had finished, Izanami had pulled several scrolls and framed photos free from the debris. The photos were intact. He gave a relieved breath and looked at the ruins with a shrug. "Good. It's destroyed. I'll just build a bigger house." They both turned their attention to the Hokage Rock. Their sensors picked up a massive surge of chakra from that direction. Konoha was counterattacking. With the villagers safely escorted to shelters, the village's true strength had been unleashed. Konoha's unity was terrifying. Unless an entire enemy village attacked with all forces or a superpower used a plane warping technique, no one could stand against it. As expected, the tide turned. The sand and sound forces, who had had the upper hand while Konoha protected civilians, were pushed back and routed when Konoha's escorting shinobi returned. The sand contingent that had been at the square brought startling news. The fourth Kazekage had been Orochimaru in disguise, and the real Kazekage was missing. Baki's sand unit abandoned the hunt for Gaara and his siblings and fled Konoha while fighting, intent on reporting back to their elders. The sand ninja who couldn't leave surrendered. As long as they lived, their village could ransom them. The remaining sound ninja likewise surrendered or fled. The master and disciple duel between Hiruzen and Orochimaru reached its grim end just as it had in the original tale. The aged third Hokage could not match Orochimaru's power, especially with the first and second Hokage resurrected by Edo Tensei and acting as pawns. In the final moment, Hiruzen, who had always preached the will of fire, made the ultimate choice. He gave up the chance to go to the Pure Land and sacrificed himself to the Shinigami, sealing away the souls of the first and second Hokage one after another. Unable to seal Orochimaru's soul, he instead took away the souls of Orochimaru's hands, stripping him of the ability to perform ninjutsu. Orochimaru howled hoarsely as Hiruzen closed his eyes with a smile and died. They had grown up together, guarded the Hokage, built Konoha, fought side by side and in secret. Hiruzen's act felt like the bitter fulfillment of a long, shared destiny. One soul ascended. The other remained swallowed by the Shinigami. In the end, the Konoha Crush had no clear victor. Not the hidden sound, not Konoha, not the hidden sand. The only true winner was Izanami. By exploiting the chaos and prowling the battlefield like a scavenger, he had come away wealthier and more powerful than anyone else. The Konoha Crush plan had brought him everything he wanted in one chaotic, blood-soaked sweep. With the sound ninjas routed and the sand forces gone, Konoha had won, but it was a hollow victory. The battle had been fought inside the village, and victory brought no relief. There were heavy casualties and widespread destruction. Worst of all, their ultimate leader, the third Hokage, had fallen in battle. The village's morale sank to its lowest point. A pall of grief hung over Konoha. Konomaru, called Konoha's imperial grandson, wept openly. Naruto stood stunned, tears streaming down his face. The man who had first recognized him, the third Hokage who had loved him most, was gone. But the people feeling the deepest blow were the elders. Danzo was dead as well. Root lay annihilated with only one survivor. Homura Mitokado and Utatane Koharu turned to Jiraiya. The usually joking Sannin wore a grave expression. According to the survivor, he said quietly, Root was wiped out by a single person aided by a group of puppets. The attacker wore an Akatsuki cloak, had purple ripple-like eyes, and used repulsion and attraction in an apparently limitless way. He killed Danzo, destroyed Root, broke into the Hokage building, abducted Tenzo, and stole the Book of Seals and several scrolls, Jiraiya continued. He can fly, can turn invisible, and his repulsion can obliterate things without leaving a scent. The puppets were controlled by Sasori of the Red Sand. We can confirm that. His puppetry is advanced enough to operate without chakra strings. He also took a lot of corpses, presumably for puppet making. Utatane Koharu's face darkened. Jiraiya, you once took an outside disciple who had a sage's eye. You didn't report it or bring him back. That disciple joined the Akatsuki and, working with Orochimaru, helped bring about the Konoha Crush. Hiruzen and Danzo are dead because of what followed. You must bear responsibility. Hey, don't pin all of this on me. Jiraiya, who had been lost in thought, suddenly winced. I still don't know if that attacker was Yahiko. The survivor's sketch shows a body covered in black rods. Maybe it was a puppet too, only resembling my old disciple. Besides, he added, the Sand were invited by the old man. Who would have guessed Orochimaru would disguise himself as the fourth Kazekage and cooperate with the Akatsuki he once belonged to? Enough with the blame, he said. We need a new Hokage. For a moment his voice warmed. Danzo was unlucky. He hoped to be Hokage again, yet he left with the old man. That's a shame. His grin returned briefly, but Utane Koharu scolded him with a pointed look. Konoha cannot go without a Hokage, she said. With Hiruzen and Danzo both gone, Jiraiya, you should be the fifth Hokage. No, he replied immediately. I won't be Hokage. My investigation shows the Akatsuki's real target is the tailed beasts and their Jinchuriki. This attack exposed the sage's eye prematurely, but instead of taking Naruto, they stole the sealing book and Root's information. That's odd. If the sage's eye were involved, the survivor wouldn't have been left alive unless it was deliberate. Danzo and that so-called demigod from the Hidden Rain must have had a past that brought this revenge here. If it was revenge, why point to the Hidden Rain as an Akatsuki base? Homura and Utatane's eyes flashed. You think they did that on purpose? Maybe, Jiraiya said. Maybe not. Precisely because of that uncertainty, I must continue the investigation. The Akatsuki S-rank rogue ninjas, possibly with a sage's eye, are too dangerous. Homura and Utatane exchanged looks. The investigation can go to the Anbu, Utatane said at last. Konoha needs a Hokage. Besides you, there's one more candidate who's suitable. Isn't there still one of the legendary Sannin? Jiraiya said meaningfully. You mean? Homura and Utatane both widened their eyes. Tsunade. She would be better than anyone. After all, she's Konoha's princess. Jiraiya smiled and convinced them. The decision hung in the air like a promise of a new era. The next day, the sky was overcast and low with rain. Konoha's shinobi wore black and carried white chrysanthemums to the memorial service for the fallen. Villagers came as well. A table of flowers bore many portraits. 2 large portraits, Hiruzen Sarutobi and Danzo Shimura, occupied the most prominent places. The rain picked up as if the heavens themselves mourned. It should have been a strictly solemn occasion, but when Izanami laid his white chrysanthemum and glanced at Danzo's portrait beside Hiruzen's, a laugh nearly escaped him. He suppressed it, closed his eyes in a reverent gesture, and murmured, Danzo-sama, rest in peace. I will make Root great again. He returned to the line with a set face, rain streaking down his cheeks as if they were tears. Many wore similar masks. More were openly sobbing, those baptized by the will of fire, the younger generation who had not seen Konoha's darker side. The service, held in the rain for half an hour, finally ended. It marked the official close of the era of Hiruzen and Danzo, and the coming appointment of a 5th Hokage signaled a new chapter for the village. There would be endless work, cleaning up, tracking Orochimaru and the Sound Village, and negotiating with the Land of Wind and the Sand. The Sand had lost the Kazekage and had many Jinchuriki and elite shinobi sealed and imprisoned. Those strategic assets couldn't simply be abandoned. Negotiations would determine their fate. Neither Konoha nor the Sand could afford war. Exposure of their true strength could spark another great war. Izanami didn't care about these politics. He had other plans. With his home destroyed, he wanted a fresh start, to buy land and build a large house. With Danzo gone and his own reputation rising, he felt secure. No one would dare probe the source of his wealth. He also had the Hyuga sisters as a social cover. Oni-chan, where will you live now? Hanabi asked as she and Hinata walked with him. A hotel is too small and expensive. Move into my house, please, suggested Hanabi. Or mine, Hinata added softly. Izanami was touched for a moment, then pictured Hiyashi Hyuga's stern face and felt a chill. He shook his head and teased Hinata. Not now. This isn't the time for visits. Hinata blushed and said nothing more. She understood his pride. Sudden cohabitation with a girl, especially a wealthy heiress, would draw attention he didn't want. At that moment, a middle-aged man's wail reached them. Before a ruined, not yet opened hot spring inn, a man in a black suit knelt and wept, berating the Sand and Sound for destroying his investment. Izanami's eyes lit up. He rose effortlessly and floated above the street, inspecting the ruined property. After a quick survey, he smiled and descended. Interested in selling? He asked the man, smiling. Yes, please, the man stammered, clinging to the offer like a life raft. Izanami leaned toward Hinata and whispered instructions. She nodded, and with a blink and a shadow body flicker, went to fetch Ino Yamanaka. Soon Izanami, Hinata, Ino, and Yusuke Yamanaka had walked to the Hokage building to formalize the transfer. Land deals in Konoha require village oversight. Izanami didn't want to be cheated and wanted a reputable witness. Yusuke, the older Yamanaka, handled the paperwork with the appropriate care. Under the eyes of Hinata and Ino, the hot spring inn's deed passed to Izanami for 66,666,000 ryo. It was generous. Izanami covered some of the seller's losses, and the man left grateful. To celebrate, Izanami tried to treat both Yuses and Ino to a meal. Yusuke declined. Ino accepted. Over hot pot, Izanami spread a map of Konoha and circled the inn and neighboring houses. The inn's grounds could support a house twice the size of his old home, but Izanami wanted more. A bigger yard, multiple buildings, a proper estate. Over the next few days, he went from house to house and managed to buy adjacent lots at prices the owners couldn't refuse. Including the hot spring inn, he spent a total of 280 million ryo. The cost stung. The people of Konoha were not easy bargains, but Izanami had what he wanted. He hired a professional survey and an architectural team, worked through the blueprints until he was satisfied, and then gave the go-ahead to begin construction on his new home. Chapter 87. Wanted, Tendo Pain, Confused Nagato. For ninjas who can reach any place on the continent in a week using a full-speed body flicker, the ninja world is a very small place. On this continent, where most territory is divided among the 4 great countries, it feels even smaller. So when something big happens in one of the 4 great countries and its village, the news spreads across the world of Shinobi in no time. The fall of the Uchiha clan, the Konoha Crush plan, and the deaths of 2 of the 5 Kage all followed that same pattern. To force the Hidden Sand village into paying a heavy price and to justify Konoha's position, neither Konoha nor the Hidden Sand concealed the incident. Instead, they released detailed information publicly. After both sides put out their statements, a rough picture emerged. Orochimaru, an S-rank rogue ninja from Konoha, assassinated the 4th Kazekage of the Hidden Sand village, then disguised himself as the Kazekage and unilaterally tore up the alliance treaty between the Land of Wind and the Land of Fire. He allegedly collaborated with the Akatsuki, a notorious mercenary organization, led some sand ninja and the Hidden Sound village's forces, and launched the Konoha Crush during Konoha's Chunin exams. In the fighting, the 3rd Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, died in combat. Root was supposedly annihilated and its leader, Danzo Shimura, killed. The accused included Sasori of the Red Sand from the Akatsuki and a mysterious member who possessed the Rinnegan, said to be the foremost of the legendary 3 great dojutsu. The only survivor spared by Izanami was Sai, the artist. His drawing of Tendo Pain's appearance was strikingly lifelike. Konoha's leadership immediately posted bounties for Sasori and Tendo Pain on the black market, bounties so high even Kakuzu would find them tempting. They also published details. Sasori can control countless puppets without chakra threads. The Rinnegan user can repeatedly use repulsion and attraction. Hanzo the Salamander was suspected dead, and the Akatsuki's headquarters was in the Hidden Rain village. One stone can stir up 1,000 ripples. Whether true or not, talk of the foremost dojutsu, the eyes of the Sage of 6 Paths, the fall of a demigod, and the Akatsuki's headquarters being exposed, focused the world's attention squarely on the Hidden Rain village. Nagato and Sasori, suddenly the center of the ninja world's scrutiny, were bewildered. "Nagato, you're too extreme," Uchiha Obito snapped. "Yes," another voice agreed. "I know Danzo Shimura was involved back then, but you endured all this time, leader. Why couldn't you hold on a little longer? Now the Rinnegan and the Akatsuki's base are exposed, and the 3 tails will take time to revive. What are we going to do next?" Uchiha Obito and Black Zetsu confronted Tendo Pain directly, accusing him. If Pain had killed Hiruzen Sarutobi or any other Konoha big name, Obito and Zetsu would be skeptical. But Danzo's death made it plausible. Only someone plotting to kill Danzo would give Nagato cause to forgive Orochimaru. After all, Orochimaru still had the Kuchin ring and could contact Nagato. Tendo Pain's composure began to crack. To keep up his dignity, Pain replied expressionlessly, "It wasn't me. I haven't left the Hidden Rain village since the last failed ambush on that mysterious person." Konan emerged from the shadows and echoed, "I can prove that neither Nagato nor Pain has left the Hidden Rain village." "So it was that mysterious person?" Obito's face under the mask was grave. "Transformation techniques require a reference image," Black Zetsu said hoarsely. "Our leader rarely shows himself. Those who have seen him either became our comrades or corpses. Logically, That mysterious person shouldn't have seen our leader's face Unless he can see us while we can't see him, Conan finished, voice grim. That day, he didn't step out. He watched us in secret, seeing us leave and return to the rain with his own eyes. It might be more than that, Obito said low. He could accurately mention Hanzo. That suggests he's known about us for some time and is only acting now. It's very likely he truly possesses a second pair of Rinnegan. Black Zetsu fell silent, but internally reached the same conclusion. The unknown dojutsu, evolved from the Byakugan, enhanced for long-range and X-ray vision, was watching them from the shadows. This incident was the outsider's calling card. An enemy who could find them while remaining undiscovered was terrifying. Black Zetsu's own thoughts drifted to his origins. For decades, he'd remained hidden in shadows in an ephemeral state, reappearing only as a manifestation of Uchiha Madara's will, a yin-yang release creation. He was the product of the chakra progenitor's yin-yang release. Except for his mother, neither of his two brothers shared his longevity. Hamura must have died long ago. This new enemy was likely a recent descendant, ignorant of his true identity. That eased Black Zetsu's mind considerably. So long as his identity remained hidden, he retained the initiative. But the new threat still needed to be found, or it would become the biggest obstacle to the infinite Tsukuyomi plan. He might have to employ the White Zetsu clones. Unless the stranger returned to the moon immediately after acting, a vast net of White Zetsu, who could merge with earth and plants, should catch him if he moved again. Black Zetsu kept these thoughts to himself. Sasori of the Red Sand arrived shortly after, unusually excited. "Leader, have you found any trace of that guy?" "That guy is a genius," Sasori exclaimed. "How did he control so many puppets without chakra threads? It's not like my puppetry or the leader's. He's a born artist." Sasori didn't care much about being blamed, rewarded, or having his organization revealed. He, like Deidara, admired artistry above all. He seemed to trust Izanami's taste in art completely. "I don't know," Tendo Pain said coldly. With outsiders present, Obito and the others fell silent. Black Zetsu then asked, "We're the focus of the ninja world now. Whether they believe it or not, everyone will send people to infiltrate and probe. If we capture them or kill them, it will mean exposure. Should we move the base?" Pain replied with the same dead calm, "No need. No matter how many come, those who come will surely die." Both Zetsu nodded, and Obito didn't press the matter. The 6 paths of pain had that kind of strength. Short of a 5-country encirclement that drained Nagato's chakra, no matter how elite a team, or even a force sent by the 5 Kage, could infiltrate the hidden rain without dying. Aside from the mysterious Rinnegan user, no one in the ninja world was a match for Nagato. If Obito himself lacked the invincible Kamui, he wouldn't risk confronting Tendo Pain. Thump, thump, thump. That morning at an inn in Konoha, a knock roused Izanami. "Who is it? What are you knocking for so early?" he grumbled. He knew it wasn't Hinata or Hanabi. Those two would wake him gently or through mischief, so he didn't even bother using sensing. Click. The doorknob turned. When the door opened, a black-haired young man in a dark blue short-sleeved shirt and white shorts stood there, frowning slightly. "It's already 9:30. Why are you still asleep?" "Izanami, you're too lax." It was Uchiha Sasuke. "I couldn't get used to the bed, so I slept very late," Izanami yawned, slowly putting on his shoes. Sasuke snorted, leaned in the doorway with his arms crossed, and said haughtily, "I heard you've been homeless. Want to move in with me? I've still got plenty of rooms." Izanami's eyes lit up. "Oh right, I almost forgot you, the clan head of the Uchiha." If it had been years ago, Sasuke would have been furious. Now he only had a black-lined expression. He set a condition: "You'll pay rent." "Money's no problem," Izanami waved a hand magnanimously. "I don't want your money." Sasuke's eyes burned. "I want your ultimate techniques." "So that was your goal." Izanami's grin turned playful. "Judgment? Naruto light cannon?" "I want them all," Sasuke said greedily. "And that fire release, Gaia energy cannon." "That rent is too expensive," Izanami teased. "I'll just stay at the inn." Sasuke, unable to take being mocked, added quickly, "If you teach me, I'll give you anything, or do anything." "Humph, still not sincere enough." Izanami snorted, picked up a white robe, and went into the private bath to wash and change. Sasuke stood fuming in the doorway, puzzled. What did Izanami mean by not sincere enough? He was willing to give everything, land deeds, his status, even to be Izanami's subordinate. Maybe Izanami wanted him to present the land deed as a token? Sasuke's expression froze as a sudden thought struck. Still, thinking of judging and the Gaia energy cannon and the Naruto light cannon, he breathed deep and resolved to do whatever it took. When Izanami came out, Sasuke tightened visibly and stammered, "B, big brother. No, leader." Izanami blinked at the odd phrasing, then amusement replaced awkwardness. He cleared his throat. "Cough, cough. The sincerity is there, but the phrasing isn't good enough." "What do you mean?" Sasuke asked, distracted. Izanami's next lines made Sasuke's face flush scarlet. Izanami adopted a mock chivalrous posture and said grandly, "You should say, 'Sasuke, drifting for years, I have not met a true brother. If you do not abandon me, I wish to become your elder brother.' Or you could say, 'If you do not abandon me, I am willing to follow you or become your adopted son. Although we're similar in age, I won't mind an adopted son.'" He grinned mischievously at the sight of Sasuke boiling with embarrassed anger. "Sasuke, I'll kill you!" Sasuke roared and lunged. The two quickly fell into a scuffle, much like Sasuke's old fights with Naruto. But Izanami's joke had broken the tension, and the moment passed as a prank between them. In the end, Izanami agreed to teach him the ultimate techniques. A begrudgingly humbled Sasuke packed his things, stored them in a sealing scroll, and left the inn with Izanami. On the way out, Izanami asked, "Do you have any ingredients at your place?" "No. I'm too lazy to go far to buy things," Sasuke admitted. "If I'm hungry, I fish or hunt." "Then let's buy ingredients first," Izanami said, "and some cookware and seasonings. Hinata might come over at any time." Sasuke nodded. He remembered their training and picnics, how Hinata could devour fish for hours unless Sasuke hunted a giant beast. When she was 70% full, she matched an Akimichi. At full power, she was a monster. He sneered inwardly at the thought of her burden and potential. What if her chakra reserves rivaled his, her cell-stimulated chakra faster? Still, without the Byakugan's gentle fist strikes, or the lethal follow-up of the gentle step twin lion fists, she wouldn't beat him. Once he mastered Izanami's shape-transforming lightning techniques and the ultimate jutsu, she would cease to be a threat. Chapter 88, Uchiha Itachi, What Are You Going to Do to My Little Brother? Yo, you two are awfully friendly. You two aren't on a date, are you? Sakura and Hinata would be so sad if they saw this. Sasuke and Izanami were buying ingredients and cooking utensils when the teasing voice cut across the street. Sasuke looked in the direction of the sound, and black lines of irritation instantly formed on his forehead. Izanami raised a hand in greeting. "Good morning, Jonin Kakashi." "Kakashi, what are you doing here?" Sasuke asked as he walked over. "Waiting for someone," Kakashi said, leaning against a pillar with Icha Paradise in hand, his right eye flicking toward the dango stall next door. Through the Norin, two figures cloaked in the Akatsuki's black robes embroidered with red clouds sat drinking tea and eating dango, their straw hats tied with little wind chimes. The sight of the uniform was enough to chill any Konoha shinobi. The Akatsuki had been tied to the Konoha crush plan and the village's black market. Sensing Kakashi's gaze, Sasuke turned to look too. A female voice then called out, "Kakashi, Izanami, Sasuke, what are you doing here?" Kurenai and Asuma stepped into view. "Red Sensei, Jonin Asuma," Izanami greeted politely. Kakashi grinned that irritating grin. "Are you two on a date?" he teased. Asuma and Kurenai flushed. Before anyone could answer, a gust of wind blew past. By the time they looked back, the two cloaked figures in the dango shop were gone. "I still have things to do," Kakashi said, slipping his book away, nodding to Asuma and Kurenai, then vanished in a blink with a body flicker. Asuma and Kurenai, understanding immediately, shared a look and did the same. They didn't even greet Izanami and Sasuke properly. Sasuke frowned. "What are those Jonin doing?" "They went after your brother," Izanami said quietly. "He was sitting right there eating dango a moment ago. You didn't notice?" "My brother?" Sasuke froze, then his expression hardened into rage. "Itachi was here just now?" "Yes, but he's gone." Without another word, Sasuke charged, stimulating his cells with lightning release to move faster. He vanished with a body flicker in the direction Asuma and Kurenai had taken. Izanami watched his retreating back, a small, almost satisfied smile lifting his lips as he murmured, "After this, you'll crave power even more. Then you'll have the will to evolve and to pay the price." My leeks are finally at harvestable size again, he added to himself. By the river that cut the forest in two, Asuma and Kurenai had intercepted the two Akatsuki members. Straw hats hung from their shoulders as the pair stepped into the clearing. As expected, we were found out. Kisame removed his straw hat, flashing shark-like teeth in amusement. Our leader is extreme. He secretly cooperated with Orochimaru and infiltrated Konoha to kill people without even telling us afterward. But you Konoha are arrogant too, blocking us with only 2 people. Hidden Mist Monster, Kisame Hoshigaki, S-rank rogue ninja from the Hidden Mist, Kurenai said, recognizing him. Asuma slid his kunai into his palm and stared at the two with killing intent. Is that the one with the Rinnegan, your leader? The Akatsuki also had a hand in the Konoha Crush plan. If you're here because of our warrants, then you're staying here today. Kisame laughed and looked toward the other figure. Mr. Itachi, are Konoha's shinobi always this proud? It has been a long time, Mr. Asuma, Miss Kurenai, Itachi said, removing his hat. His 3 Tomoe Sharingan stared at them coolly. Please do not interfere. I do not wish to kill you. Asuma scoffed despite himself. That doesn't sound like the same ruthless man who wiped out his own clan. Uchiha Itachi! Sasuke's roar cut through the tense moment like a blade. The air crackled with converging lightning. Chidori. Then Sasuke appeared, electricity dancing from his hand, the 2 Tomoe Sharingans spinning wildly. He drove a lightning-charged spear straight at Itachi's heart. Die, you monster! Itachi didn't flinch. Like a practiced opponent, he shifted his weight and slid the attack off to the side. Sasuke's Chidori missed. Itachi caught Sasuke's wrist, flung him into the woods, and slammed him against a tree. Before Sasuke could cry out, Itachi was on him again, one hand at his throat, the other twisting the palm still crackling with lightning until it dislocated. Sasuke choked, face red, but his eyes remained fierce, blazing with hatred. Sasuke! Asuma and Kurenai moved to help, but a massive, bandage-wrapped sword swept across the clearing, forcing them back. Kisame held Samahata with a grin. They're having a reunion. Let's not interrupt. This path's blocked. Asuma and Kurenai exchanged a glance and responded together. Asuma charged, the flying swallow in hand and cloak wrapped with wind release, while Kurenai formed seals and disappeared like a mirage, then materialized above Sasuke with a kunai aimed at Itachi to force him back. Don't interfere, Miss Kurenai, Itachi said flatly. He raised his eyes and his 3 Tomoe Sharingans spun. Invisible yin chakra washed out. Kurenai's genjutsu dissolved mid-strike, leaving her real body a short distance away, paralyzed. Itachi turned his attention to Sasuke. Only a 2 Tomoe Sharingan. Your hatred for me is still insufficient, foolish little brother. Let me help you. His tomoe blurred, the pattern shifting into a black, shuriken-like design as Itachi prepared to cast Tsukuyomi, ready to force Sasuke through the night of the clan's slaughter again, to deepen the hatred in his little brother's heart. Hey! The ocular power could not be released. A voice interrupted, sharp and cold. Uchiha Itachi, what are you going to do to my little brother? With a whoosh, Itachi dropped Sasuke and vanished with a body flicker. At almost the same instant, a white beam of light lanced through the spot where Itachi had stood. The beam sliced across the clearing toward the 2 who were fighting, Asuma and Kisame. Both men leapt aside. Asuma landed on a tree. Kisame plunged onto the river's surface where Itachi had been and shouted, Water release! Water dragon bullet technique! A towering column of water erupted and collided with the white beam. The beam cut the water aside like paper, but the collision weakened it. The caster stopped feeding chakra into the beam. Crushing the storm release energy mass that had formed in his hand, Izanami walked to Sasuke's side. Are you all right? I'm fine, Sasuke rasped. Then his gaze snapped to Itachi and Kisame standing on the river. Losing every scrap of reason, he barked. Izanami, help me kill him. Izanami considered. It'll be difficult, but we'll try, while they don't know who I am. He turned to face Itachi and Kisame, and in an instant spun an energy ball into being the size of a basketball in his hand. Kisame's eyes widened. Is that Rasengan? And why is it that big? The ball in Izanami's hand glittered. Kisame's gaze darted to the hand seal pattern he had seen. And that storm release earlier. Mr. Itachi, this boy seems very familiar with your brother. He looks like your brother's boss. Do you know him? It was the top student in Sasuke's class, Itachi replied. He seemed like a commoner orphan. A commoner orphan? Kasame's grin faltered. Samahata trembled in his hand. Chakra that makes Samahata tremble isn't something a common orphan usually wields. He could be one of the missing Senju. Mr. Itachi, let me have some fun with him, Kasame said, eager to fight. No, Itachi said quietly. Your style is too flashy. Our identities and organization have already been exposed. A lot of shinobi will be coming this way. Inside the energy ball in Izanami's hand, 3 smaller orbs began to form. The sight made Kasame and Itachi's expressions shift. This was no ordinary chakra construct. The 3 orbs spun, each a different hue. Wind's transparent white, Earth's yellow-brown, and Fire's orange-red. They rotated, collided, and blended. The larger blue energy shell surrounding them became glassy and transparent, and inside a fist-sized white core pulsed. Raw, destructive energy congealed into a compact core. Those with sensory skills could feel the terror inside it. Both Itachi and Sasuke, eyes tracking the chakra, could see the aura of annihilation within. Before anyone could speak, Izanami hurled the transparent orb at them. Dust release can be thrown? Kasame swore. Run! Itachi used a body flicker to flee. Kasame followed. Asuma and Kurenai disengaged as well and vanished into the trees. Izanami, surprised that his first attempt at the technique had worked, snatched up Sasuke and sprinted after them. The thrown orb hit the river surface. The white core shattered its way out like molten light, erupting inside the shell and rapidly inflating. The transparent energy wall held, but the sphere ballooned outward with the speed and terrible inevitability of a tailed beast ball. Moving faster than a body flicker, the expanding light wall cut across the clearing as if a silent explosion had been detonated. From the corner of Itachi's eye, a single line of blood tears leaked and his pupils contracted. Amaterasu, he breathed. Black flames sprang to life and coated the advancing light wall where it moved across the water, intended to consume and anchor anything it touched. But the flames themselves flared and vanished almost as quickly as they had appeared, broken down by a higher-level force. Buy me 2 seconds, Kisame cried, sealing his hand signs. Itachi did not answer. He poured forth the terrifying power of his eyes, and an enormous orange-red arm of chakra, shaped like a shield, coalesced and slammed into the engulfing light wall, slowing its advance. Kisame seized the moment and roared, "Water release, water shark bullet technique." A colossal water shark erupted from the river and swallowed Kisame and Itachi whole. It dove and streaked away beneath the surface. A moment later, a monstrous explosion detonated in the river where they'd been swallowed. From above, a vast, rapidly expanding light disk rose from the water and spread outward, engulfing the surrounding trees and river. The sound was deafening, but there were no dissipating shockwaves, no debris, no scorch marks, nothing. Then the light vanished as quickly as it had appeared, and where it had passed was a perfectly smooth circular crater, utterly devoid of debris or burned matter. River water rushed in. The crater would soon become a new lake carved into the forest, a clean, immaculate wound left by a single, terrible strike. Chapter 89. I got my little brother. It smells so good. What a terrifying explosion. When the earth-shattering blast finally faded, Asuma Sarutobi and Kurenai Yuhi returned to the battlefield. From a treetop, they stared at the huge crater before them, a wound in the land so deep it would take river water a long time to fill, their eyes still trembling. Asuma turned to Kurenai. Kurenai, your student, are you sure he didn't actually awaken storm release as a Kekkei Genkai or dust release as a bloodline trait? Kazumi doesn't lie unless he wants to hide something, Kurenai said, shaking her head. I already asked him during the Chunin exams. He fused storm release artificially. He used that enlarged Rasengan as a core and injected 2 nature transformations into it, combining ultra-high-speed rotation with top-level shape transformation. He still can't directly convert chakra into storm release. Asuma couldn't help but exclaim, what control over chakra and what ninjutsu talent? That's beyond genius. Even the old man in his prime wouldn't measure up. Yes, Kurenai's smile was bittersweet. After the 5th Hokage takes office, I might think about retiring. It would be embarrassing to be a Jonin instructor who needs protection from his own student during missions. Asuma laughed, but his smile faded as thoughts of his 3 students crept in, a lazy slacker, a vain team leader, a gluttonous fatty. Kurenai could probably retire and still enjoy a comfortable jonin life, backed by capable subordinates. What about him? He sighed and lit a cigarette. Soon, Kakashi Hatake arrived, late as always, with Might Guy and a group of jonin. They were all stunned, but Izanami paid them no mind. After launching that dust-release sphere, he had taken Uchiha Sasuke and left for the city at once. On the way, he set Sasuke down and reattached him to his wrist. Sasuke sat sullen and silent. Izanami smiled and asked, "Don't you hate how weak you feel?" Sasuke nodded heavily. He hadn't been struck by Tsukuyomi and forced to relive the clan massacre over and over like in the original timeline, so he wasn't twisted by that trauma. Still, the sight of a real enemy he couldn't touch had filled him with a burning need for power. He was too weak. "Do you want to get stronger?" Izanami asked, his tone suddenly like Orochimaru's, full of temptation. Sasuke nodded again, eyes fixed on him. Izanami smiled, amused by the hunger in Sasuke's gaze. Just judgment and resonance cannon couldn't kill him. Even that ultimate technique just now, with an information advantage, couldn't finish Uchiha Itachi. Sasuke's eyes lit up. "Izanami, can you make me stronger? Can you help me kill him?" "There are risks," Izanami said, smiling as he stared at Sasuke. "Are you afraid of dying?" Sasuke blinked, then grinned with cold fury. "Do you remember what I said before the Chunin exams? If getting the power to kill him means selling my life and soul to the devil, I'll do it." "The real me died 5 years ago," he added solemnly. "I have nothing to lose." "Don't be ridiculous." Izanami patted his shoulder, teasing. "I said there are risks, but risks can be reduced, and this is my first time taking a subordinate. I'm not going to let you die easily. After you get your revenge, you'll be working like a beast for me." "When I kill him, my life belongs to you," Sasuke vowed. "We'll talk when that happens. For now, prepare for hellish training." Izanami waved it off, but couldn't hide the curve of his smile. A second subordinate, and a perfect lieutenant, had been acquired. "Oni-chan, the scenery here is so pretty." Izanami had just moved into Sasuke's place. The Hyuga sisters came by the next day. On the bank of the Nanga River, Izanami lounged on a beach chair, fishing and picnicking with Hanabi. Hanabi lay in his arms, happily munching a banana, her eyes darting to a waterfall that looked like a sliver of the galaxy. Suddenly, excited, she said, "Oni-chan, that waterfall has a cave in it. Do you think there's treasure?" "Nope, just rubble." Izanami smiled. That cave was blasted open by Oni-chan when he was practicing ninjutsu. So cool, as expected of Oni-chan. Hanabi looked at him with total admiration. Izanami, pleased, puffed up and continued, "I was only 7 or 8 then, about your age, Hanabi." Hanabi's smile faded into a pout. "Oni-chan was already amazing at 7 or 8 and taught Oni-chan so much, but he only taught me to climb trees with my feet and walk on water." "Oni-chan is biased." Izanami ruffled her cheek and grinned. "I'm not teaching you those things yet, because you're still building a foundation. Be secretly happy. Oni-chan only awakened physical healing 2 years ago, and your Oni-chan was already 10 then. When you're 10, you'll definitely surpass Hinata at that age in every way." "In every way?" Hanabi's eyes sparkled. She glanced down at her flat chest, then up eagerly. "Will I be as big as Oni-chan by then?" Izanami was momentarily speechless. He didn't want to discourage her, so he looked away and changed the subject. "The sparring's almost over. Your Oni-chan is about to win." Downriver, Hinata and Sasuke had been locked in a fierce taijutsu exchange across the flowing water. Sasuke's chakra was far inferior. He couldn't move freely on the water's surface and was suppressed the whole time. Under the Byakugan's sight, he couldn't even brush the hem of Hinata's robe. Hinata repeatedly exposed his weaknesses, but didn't finish him. She was training him in chakra control. Only when Sasuke's stamina and temper broke did she finish it with a gentle step twin lion fist strike. His meridian chakra was utterly drained. Sasuke toppled into the river, then hauled himself ashore, soaked through and panting. "Come rest for a bit, then we'll start the next phase." Izanami called them over, and Sasuke trudged to the chair, wordless. After stuffing himself and regaining some strength, he looked at Izanami eagerly. "What's the next phase?" Izanami, pulling grilled meat for Hinata, frowned at Sasuke. "What's gotten into you? Hatred can push you to train, but negative emotions can also make you weaker and reckless. You want big power, but if your mindset can't handle it, What's the difference between you and a wild animal? I was going to teach you the super hurricane cereal spheres, but thinking about it, forget it. It'd be funny if you blew yourself up. He reached into the bag by his chair and tossed a scroll to Sasuke. For the next half month, I want you to read everything in this scroll. Until you've fully absorbed it, stop all other training except chakra control. Okay. Sasuke didn't protest. He knew he'd been out of control lately and needed to calm down. If anyone else had said it, he might have scoffed, but coming from Izanami, it felt right. Years of seeing Izanami's composed, respectful, rational side had left an impression. It was probably that mind that let Izanami synthesize so many nature transformations. Seeing Sasuke accept the discipline, Izanami smiled and added a tease. You won't be reading for nothing. The knowledge in there is the foundation for an S-rank ultimate technique. Sasuke's eyes lit up and he gripped the scroll. Izanami produced another and handed it to Hinata. This one's for you. Read when you can. Hinata crammed another piece of meat into her mouth until her cheeks puffed like buns, then tucked the scroll into her obi. It was a sight Izanami had seen 100 times, but he still lifted a camera and took a picture of her, earning a scandalized cry. Yay! Then a little hand flashed a peace sign into the frame, and a mischievous child's voice said, Naughty, take this! Ouch, ouch, Oni-chan, I'm sorry! They stayed until dusk before packing up. After dropping the Hyuga sisters back in town, Izanami and Sasuke returned to the clan compound. Partway home, Izanami remembered something. Oh, right. The demolition of the old house at the new place starts tomorrow. Go help with that, and call Choji to help clear the rubble. I'll treat him to barbecue afterward. Why don't you go? Sasuke said, automatically showing his contempt. Aren't you my subordinate? Isn't this the sort of thing a subordinate does? Sasuke had no reply. For a moment he wanted to go back in time and strangle whoever he'd been when he agreed to be treated like someone's underling. But he glanced down at the scroll in his hands and decided it was worth it. Fine. Consider it sugar in shit. A little sweetness mixed with the hard work. Chapter 90. Wood Release, Kekkei Genkai Bloodline Limit, Human Bullet Tank. Fire Release, Great Fireball Technique. Water Release, Wild Water Wave. Ninja Art, Fang over Fang. That morning, a strange sight unfolded on Konoha's Central Street. Someone was openly using 5 elements ninjutsu in public, normally forbidden, yet no patrol ninja came to stop them. The work had been reported in advance, demolition around a hot spring inn that had been reduced to ruins. Several nearby houses were cordoned off, while a team cleared the area. Leading the rookies, Uchiha Sasuke and his classmates were showing off, blasting through walls and using their signature techniques to tear down the houses Izanami had purchased. A few days after Uchiha Itachi's return to the village, Izanami had been supervising the demolition. At first, only he and Akimichi Choji pitched in, but passing Jinin saw the commotion and gladly joined. Whether it was for the pay or the thrill of demolishing buildings, they preferred it to boring training. Explosions boomed and smoke filled the air, and by the time the rookies were panting and nearly out of chakra, not a single house had been fully demolished. Forget it. I'll do it. Izanami, wearing a safety helmet, shook his head and stepped forward. He condensed an energy ball about the size of a Rasengan, infusing it with water and lightning transformations so quickly that a small storm-release light orb formed. With one motion, he sent it crashing into a heavily damaged house. It collapsed with a roar. In under 10 strikes, he leveled every house inside the cordon. Begin. A dozen fully equipped workers moved in and started hauling rubble. The rookies who hadn't contributed earlier immediately joined. But the pace was slow. At that rate, clearing the ruins would take about 10 days. So Izanami used a forbidden jutsu he had learned but never needed until now. He formed hand signs and called multiple shadow clone jutsu. The popping of clones filled the air and a white mist spread. When it cleared, 200 Izanamis were at work. 3 of those clones ran off toward the Nanga River to fetch sealing scrolls. The rookies were astonished. Izanami, how do you know Naruto's jutsu? Nara Shikamaru squinted at a clone and asked. If I remember right, that's a forbidden jutsu listed in the sealing book. Shikamaru didn't suspect Izanami had stolen the village's sealing book. The theft hadn't been made public. Past Hokage had prepared independent scrolls of forbidden techniques, so the book's loss wasn't catastrophic, though it was dangerous to have the village's forbidden techniques exposed. What puzzled him was that Izanami, by identity alone, shouldn't have been able to learn such a jutsu. Even with the Hyuga's help, it would be difficult. Had Naruto taught him? The clone, who was moving stones, looked up and said with a bored tone, "Do you need to learn it? Don't you just learn it by watching?" Then it added, as if remembering, "Oh, right, your chakra's too low. You'd still never pick it up." Kiba, who was passing by with Akamaru, couldn't resist. "He's so obnoxious. Die!" he shouted, threw a stone, and smashed that particular clone into white mist. Akamaru barked in agreement. Someone had to take the first swing, and that started a free-for-all. In a few moves, the rookies were being pinned and beaten by the many clones, begging for mercy. Everyone's worked hard. Come eat some fruit. Hinata and Hanabi, with Ino Yamanaka and Sakura Haruno, rolled up a cart piled with fruit. "Oni-chan, drink some water," Hanabi insisted, handing a bottle to Izanami. "Thanks, Hanabi," Izanami said, smiling and ruffling her hair. He watched, though, as the rookies immediately quit work to freeload snacks. His brow darkened. Why did he always end up with a group of lazy friends in every world? Fortunately, after replenishing their chakra, the rookies finally used the shadow clone technique properly and got back to work. With 200 Izanami clones, the rookies' clones, and the various professional teams, the massive clearing that would have taken days was finished in less than 2. To thank everyone, Izanami hosted a 2-day feast, spending nearly 1,000,000 Ryo, roughly the reward for a standard S-rank mission. A painful expense, but the teamwork and shared meals restored the comradeship among them. Once the ruins were cleared and the foundation laid, a simple administrative task, the rest was left to professional builders, and Izanami could finally rest. On his way back alone toward the Uchiha compound, he stopped and glanced back down the forest path. "Was that a hallucination?" he murmured, then quickened his pace. After he disappeared, a white face peeled out of the trunk of a large tree, a white Zetsu clone, only its face visible. If Konoha's children had seen it, they'd never dare enter the forest again. Looking where Izanami had gone, the white Zetsu clone whispered, "Such incredible sensing. Is that the Izanami Kisame and Itachi mentioned? Flying ninjutsu and dust release, he's practically a copy of Onoki. Konoha's luck to have such a genius now." What the white Zetsu didn't know was that Izanami had seen him. Izanami's eyes flashed blue, and he thought, as expected, they're still sending clones. With something this big happening, how could they not gather intelligence? There's more than one. He scanned a direction for a few seconds, and a cold smile curved his lips. The ephemeral technique can hide inside earth and plants, perfectly masking chakra. Even the reincarnation eye can't detect them if they don't reveal themselves. But as a transmigrator, he had more than one way to handle it. Let them be smug for a few days. Then the roles will be reversed, he decided. He'd deal with them in his own time. Wood release, great forest technique. The scene moved to the wave country, inside a purple, transparent rectangular barrier. A dense forest filled the sealed area, and sounds of combat constantly echoed through the trees. Tenzo, captured earlier by one of Izanami's shadow clones, used wood release to extend a tangle of wooden vines from his arm like a swarm of snakes, trying to bind a young boy before him. The boy wore a black cloak, white bandages wrapped below his eyes, leaving only a pair of red eyes visible. The branches wrapped around the boy, but the moment they secured him, he seemed to dissolve into red powder. The next instant, a palm struck Tenzo's back. Black, tadpole-shaped curse marks crawled across his skin, and he lost control of his limbs. The boy appeared out of thin air and unleashed the gentle fist, a flurry of blows that sealed Tenzo's chakra pathways with the 8 trigrams 64 palms and finished with the 8 trigrams empty palm. The boy gazed down at Tenzo, coughing up blood, then turned to leave. "Heal him," a man's voice called from the trees. A girl in a black cloak and white mask knelt beside Tenzo and used the mystic palm technique to stitch him up. "Cough, cough! Who are you people?" Tenzo croaked. His body was sealed, his chakra restricted. The only thing he could move was his mouth. He tried to sound defiant. "If you think you can get information by torturing me, you're naive. You'd do better to kill me than waste time." The girl ignored him. After a brief treatment, she forced a soldier pill into his mouth, then stood and left. Later, the boy returned, undid the seals, and gave Tenzo time to free the blocked circuit points. Tenzo had already grown numb to the routine. This boy put him through the same sparring dozens of times a day. After that underground encounter with the repulsion storm, Tenzo had thought himself dead. Instead, he had woken up in this barrier, forced to be the boy's sparring partner. At first, the boy knew only 5 elements ninjutsu, but he'd quickly added the Gentle Fist, a red-eye bloodline ability reputed to counter Byakugan, a variety of sealing jutsu, and advanced elemental techniques. His growth had astonished even Tenzo. In under 5 days, the boy went from an even match to completely dominant. Yet they never killed Tenzo. They would beat him, heal him, feed him pills, and send him back in. It was maddening, but as long as there was some sliver of hope, Tenzo refused to give up. Rimaru and Tenzo began another round. Outside the barrier, Izanami's shadow clone spoke to Karin, who'd come out to the perimeter. "Karin, you can go back now." "Really? You don't need my help anymore?" she asked, reluctant. "No, I have good news," the clone said. "Konoha's 5th Hokage is about to take office. The main body might come find you in a few days and recommend you to join Konoha. Go pack your things and wait." Karin's eyes lit up, and she nodded eagerly. "I'll go pack right away. Thank you for everything." "You've done well. I'll be here if you need anything," the clone said. Less than 2 hours after Karin left, Izanami, controlling the puppet and making Ranmaru fight Tenzo 3 more times, finally saw a purple beam of light burst from Tenzo's body. A weight lifted from him. "It finally dropped," he muttered. The drop rate had been awful. Wood luck, he thought, but the mechanism was simple. Killing gave higher drop rates than merely defeating an enemy. Now he'd obtained the key to countering the ephemeral technique. Already in his transformation technique state, Izanami had the puppet release the 4 violet flames formation and stepped before Tenzo, who was once again sealed by a heavy 4-limbed binding. Tenzo, expecting death, asked weakly, "Are you going to kill me?" "You've done enough," Izanami said. "Now sleep for a few years." He pressed his hand to Tenzo's head and used a sealing jutsu to lock away his consciousness. Taking out the stone coffin Karin had brought, he sealed Tenzo inside it, bound it with seals, and carried it to a mountain. He blasted a cave, placed the coffin inside, sealed the cave, and only then returned to the ninja continent with the puppet. Back in the village limits, the shadow clone dissolved into white smoke, and control of the puppet reverted to Izanami's main body. Chapter 91. The battle between the old villains. Tsunade returns to the village. Ding! You have obtained the talent entry, Bloodline Limit Wood Release, Purple. Fuse or decompose? Fuse. The system's voice was flat and emotionless, but to Izanami at that moment, it sounded like music from the heavens. He didn't hesitate and fused the entry that had crossed nations into his collection. A new entry flashed on his bar, Bloodline Limit Wood Release, Purple. The parentheses after Wood Release indicated it could be upgraded. Izanami's point savings had already surpassed 100,000, enough to upgrade 10 purple entries to gold, or 1 gold to a red. Upgrading Wood Release would cost only 9,999 points, but he didn't rush. That would be a waste. Danzo Shimura, Obito Uchiha, Tenzo, and the black and white Zetsu clones had all proved one thing. Wood Release itself wasn't what made someone overwhelmingly powerful. It was Hashirama Senju's chakra and sage body mastery. Even combined with half of the Nine-Tails chakra and Uzumaki Naruto's, a mere Wood Release couldn't match Hashirama. If Hashirama had mastered Dust Release, then Dust Release would be the apex ability. Without Yang-level Sage Body Chakra, Wood Release was only a strong bloodline limit, capable of producing elite fighters like Tenzo. Izanami, who had the Reincarnation Eye, didn't strictly need Wood Release. But to speed Sasuke Uchiha's growth and to counter Black and White Zetsu's ephemeral technique, Wood Release was necessary. Now that it had finally dropped, he could get rid of those filthy things and make Konoha clean. Wearing colored contact lenses, Izanami activated his Reincarnation Eye, switched his perspective to the villa on Sakura Street, and controlled a guard puppet to open a safe and withdraw a red scroll. When he opened it, an array of Wood Release ninjutsu filled his vision. This was the same Wood Release scroll Danzo had given Tenzo in the original story, one of Danzo's prized items. but it did not contain Hashirama's 3 signature wood release techniques: wood release, tree world advent, wood release, wood dragon technique, or wood release, wood human technique. Nor did it contain the ultimate sage art, wood release, true several thousand hands. Izanami didn't care. He scanned the scroll and paused over wood release, 3-body technique. If black and white Zetsu's disguise, ephemeral, and spore techniques were the pinnacle forms of the basic arts, the ultimate 3-body technique, body flicker, and hiding in surface techniques, then the wood release 3-body technique was the top-tier 3-body technique. It couldn't match the Zetsu divine techniques, but it completely outclassed ordinary 3-body and shadow clone techniques. Izanami learned the 3 basic wood release ninjutsu after only a few glances. He picked up 2 more practical wood release techniques before closing the scroll. He took a fishing rod and found Sasuke sitting cross-legged reading on the veranda. "Sasuke, want to go fishing?" "No. Go find Hinata or Hanabi to keep you company." Sasuke didn't look up. "I have a feeling the mission system for C rank and above will restart soon. I might have to go out on missions, so while I have time, I want to read." Sasuke finally looked up, shook the book a little, and asked, "By the way, is that S-rank ultimate technique you mentioned a medical one?" "It's more of a support type between medical ninjutsu and sealing jutsu," Izanami said after thinking for a moment, waving a hand with a smile. "Anyway, you'll like it. Keep studying." Body flickering away from Sasuke's house, Izanami didn't go find Hinata or Hanabi. He headed alone to the Nanga River. He took a folding chair from a ceiling scroll, baited his hook, and with a graceful cast, settled in for the afternoon. After a few minutes without a bite, he began chumming, scattering bait into the water and using a float to attract fish. He looked every bit the dedicated angler. No one noticed that among the handful of bait he threw, one white seed drifted downstream. A soaking figure climbed ashore a little downriver. It was a wood clone created by Izanami using wood transformation. The clone immediately vanished with body flicker and reappeared above the Nanga River cliff. Hidden in a tree hollow, the clone planted its hand on the ground and let its wood-release chakra pervade the soil. Instead of making branches sprout, the chakra traveled through roots and underground water currents, forming a 1-kilometer sensing network. Without the mind's eye of the Kagura, or the reincarnation eye, the wood clone detected a special chakra attached to a section of root, assimilated into it, and practically invisible to sensing techniques. To anyone who merely saw through the earth, it would look like an ordinary root. No ninjutsu is perfect. Just as every element has counters, wood release, formed by the fusion of water and earth releases, could counter ephemeral technique, which relied on merging with earth and plants and using an organic network of roots and water currents for rapid movement. The wood clone located the white Zetsu clone's position and whispered, "Wood release, silent killing, binding technique." The root the white Zetsu had merged with suddenly came alive. It grew rapidly, wrapping the chakra sphere like a zongzi. A terrifying suction force drew the chakra inward, preventing quick movement or escape. Tadpole-shaped black seals appeared on the root, binding and sealing the white Zetsu clone's consciousness. "Damn it, we've been discovered." The moment one white Zetsu clone was sealed, white Zetsu clones spread across Konoha, and even the ninja world felt as if a white line had been drawn through their minds. They immediately knew which clone had been compromised. White Zetsu clones hidden throughout Konoha fled without hesitation. Black and white Zetsu, who had been in a dispersed ephemeral state, gathering information across the world, suddenly poked their heads out of the ground. The white Zetsu who surfaced lost any playfulness. His face went solemn. Ephemeral technique has been broken. A white Zetsu clone sent to Konoha has been discovered and captured. Connected by mental possession, Black Zetsu also received the news. His already dark face seemed to dim further. Ephemeral technique lets us merge with earth and plants and be undetectable to even the strongest sensing. Barriers can't stop us, and even if our location's found, powerful earth release can't stop our movement if response is fast enough. To capture a white Zetsu clone silently like that, that's not ordinary ninjutsu. A secret technique? A bloodline limit? White Zetsu's voice was anxious. Black Zetsu was quiet for a long moment, Then a meaningful smile crossed his face. Maybe this is good news, he said hoarsely. Good news? How? We overlooked something important, Black Zetsu said, looking up at the sky with a cold amusement. Hamura took only one branch of his clan to the moon. The other branch remained on the ninja world and over the past 1,000 years abandoned their old surname. White Zetsu's eyes widened. You mean the Hyuga? Not ruled out, Black Zetsu replied. Very few things can break ephemeral technique. In 1,000 years, I haven't seen one. I couldn't approach those two renegade brothers back then either. If there's a Rinnegan like I and some unknown ocular power capable of seeing through ephemeral, it could be possible. Then that mysterious person isn't from the moon. It's someone in the Hyuga clan whose bloodline atavized, White Zetsu concluded. Excitement and fear mingled. If an eye technique with the power of all creation is present, it would require massive chakra to support it, Black Zetsu continued. If someone in the Hyuga has absurd chakra, they're a likely candidate. And if no one matches, then maybe that branch secretly sent a standout offspring to Konoha. We should observe those with white hair. Kakashi Hatake fits better. His chakra was amazing before he received the Sharingan. He's not the one. If he were from that branch, Sharingan transplantation would have had no side effects on him. Black Zetsu spoke with certainty. He paused, then added, since ephemeral technique was seen through, White Zetsu clones won't be able to infiltrate Konoha as easily. If ephemeral doesn't work, use disguise technique, White Zetsu suggested. We can impersonate Konoha Shinobi or even take a Hyuga identity. If discovered, we sacrifice a clone. White Zetsu immediately began to act. Izanami was unaware of the Zetsu's discussion. If he had known, he might have smiled. 1,000-year-old schemer's logic was fearsome, but Black Zetsu hadn't considered an outsider perfectly replicating the Otsutsuki bloodline at an atavism level, and without white hair. Observers assumed Izanami had mastered some earth release like lightweight rock technique rather than being an Akatsuki leader or the mysterious figure. His background was clean enough to explain massive chakra as an awakened whirlpool or Senju descendant, both tied to Yang Sage body rather than yin release ocular powers. Back at the river, the wood clone transported the sealed root Zongzi to the surface with wood release, then vanished with body flicker to continue probing underground for more White Zetsu. Izanami rose, floated to the cliff, and inspected the wrapped bundle. To be safe, he used wood transformation to appear as an ordinary middle-aged man before unraveling the root. The White Zetsu clone inside had already passed out. Let's see if your brain is empty or full, Izanami muttered, placed a hand on the clone's head, and whispered, ninja art, mind-reading technique. Yin release chakra poured into the clone's mind. Izanami's face registered pure disappointment. The White Zetsu's mind was blank. That meant he couldn't learn ephemeral or disguise technique through mind-reading. If he could, combined with self-sustaining wood clones that could absorb chakra, Izanami alone might equal 100,000 White Zetsu. Offensive and defensive balance would be overturned. Still, this was expected. He had other methods. Knowing the plot had always been the transmigrator's greatest advantage. After double-sealing the White Zetsu clone in a cave, Izanami jumped into the river, caught a few fish, and went home to show off to Sasuke. A true fisherman never returns empty-handed. Time moved on. It reached August 22nd, Konoha year 60, exactly half a month after the Konoha Crush plan. During this time, Konoha Shinobi only undertook 2 kinds of missions, D-rank jobs within the village and sanctioned intelligence-gathering missions about Orochimaru and the Hidden Sound. The Hokage building had closed the mission registration system to outsiders. It wouldn't reopen until a new Hokage was appointed. With so few missions, the streets were packed with shinobi. Morale had dropped, but not into panic. On this day, Konoha suddenly buzzed. Someone swore they'd seen 2 legendary shinobi at the village entrance. One of them, the granddaughter of the first and second Hokage, the princess of the Land of Fire, the medical saint of the ninja world. Lady Tsunade. In an instant, the rumor spread that Tsunade had returned to succeed as Hokage. No one knew who started it, but morale rebounded instantly. August 25th. Early that morning, Hyuga Hinata and Hanabi arrived at Uchiha Sasuke's house. Izanami-kun, Sasuke-kun, today is the 5th Hokage's succession ceremony. I brought your clothes, see if they fit. They weren't wearing kimonos. Instead, they wore trousers and white shirts with a red kanji for fire embroidered on the back. The shirts fit perfectly. On Hinata, the fabric strained over her chest like two plump rabbits, which was sure to draw attention and the envy of many onlookers. "Thank you. The only trouble with living in the suburbs," Izanami said, taking the clothes and draping them over his shoulder as he ruffled Hanabi's little face. Sasuke raised an eyebrow, glanced between Hinata and Izanami, and unexpectedly smiled. He took the shirts and said, perfectly straight-faced, "Thank you, sister-in-law." Sister-in-law. Hinata's face flushed crimson. The title hit her like a bolt. She was flustered, but warm affection toward Sasuke surged through her. She had been secretly practicing the strength of 100 technique Izanami had taught her, and had even thought of using Sasuke as a test subject in a spar, but now she shelved that plan. Izanami looked surprised too. He'd never pictured this aloof young master using that form of address. Then he caught the glint of mischief in Sasuke's eyes. Smiling, Izanami said, "A verbal thanks isn't enough. Let me teach you a congratulatory phrase." "What phrase?" "It's used at New Year's," Izanami replied with a little cough, then turned to the empty air and in Mandarin slowly intoned, "Big brother, sister-in-law, Happy New Year. You are my lord. I am your son." Sasuke mimicked him with the same odd accent, but when he caught Izanami's barely suppressed grin, his expression snapped cold. "You despicable. You tricked me." "No. You peeked just then, you bastard." "Oh dear, caught." Izanami feigned surprise. "Oni-chan, he was trying to trick you. Now you're exposed." Hanabi chimed in, scandalized. Izanami wagged a finger solemnly. "Sasuke, lying isn't a good habit." "Die." Sasuke lunged to punish him. Izanami sidestepped easily and tapped a pressure point with one finger. Sasuke froze, trembled, then stood rooted in place, numb and unable to move. "You still need practice, Sasuke-kun," Izanami said, smiling and patting his shoulder before going back to his room to change. The Hyuga sisters watched with restrained smiles. The flushed young master hurried off to change himself. A few minutes later, the four of them, 2 boys and 2 girls, stepped out of the once quiet Uchiha compound in matching white shirts, chatting and laughing as they headed for Konoha's central street. Passing Izanami's new house, they saw construction already climbing higher. In their world, ninjutsu and money could make buildings grow fast. The succession ceremony took place at the Hokage building. By then, the street was packed shoulder to shoulder. People climbed walls and utility poles to see. Izanami and the others were late and had to stand at the very back. "Oni-chan, I want to ride up high." Hanabi tugged his sleeve. "Okay." Izanami smiled, squatted, and let Hanabi straddle his shoulders. He took Hinata's hand so she could see over the crowd. Tsunade didn't keep the village waiting. In a tea-green long coat with black trim and the Hokage hat in hand, she appeared on the rooftop. The crowd erupted. Cheers, shouts, people overwhelmed like they were greeting an idol. Everyone, regardless of clan or station, looked at her with awe. Jiraiya and Orochimaru had never enjoyed this kind of universal adoration. Even past Hokages had not been met with such fervor. The Senju name and Tsunade's reputation as one of the legendary Sannin and a medical saint gave her an unshakable legitimacy. Under her rule, Konoha would be strong again. "She's so pretty," Hinata whispered, eyes shining. "If the book's right, she should be 52. She looks like she's in her 30s. How does she stay like that?" "Do you see the mark on her forehead?" Izanami asked. Hinata and Hanabi activated their Byakugan to examine. Even Sasuke, curious, opened his Sharingan. Izanami's explanation made both Hyuga girls beam. "That mark is the strength of 100 seal. It's the S-rank secret technique I'm preparing to teach you. It stores chakra, enhances physical abilities, heals rapidly, and keeps one youthful." "Stores chakra? No wonder you wanted me reading medical books," Sasuke said, suddenly motivated to study. Hinata's motivation was different, youth and beauty. Hanabi, all of 7, grabbed Izanami's hair and squealed, "Oni-chan, teach me the strength of 100 seal too." "I'll teach you when you're older," Izanami warned. "If you learn it now, your body could be affected. You might not grow taller, or you might stay the same in other ways." Hanabi glanced at Hinata's fuller chest and at her own flat one, then shook her head. "Then I don't want it." Their corner was private enough that no one heard them. Even if they had, Izanami wouldn't have minded. He had plenty of explanations ready for both Strength of 100 and the seal. A clear, powerful voice rang out across the street. From now on, I am Konoha's fifth Hokage. Tsunade placed the hat on her head, and the crowd's cheer intensified until it seemed to shake the sky. A village with a leader was a different village. Fear and uncertainty melted away. The mission system was up and running the next day. Ninjas and villagers alike poured into work and business. On that day, Sasuke packed his gear. He sneered at Izanami, lounging on the veranda with a book about interior design. If you're scared living alone in the suburbs, invite Hinata to keep you company, or sneak into the Hyuga compound and let her lull you to sleep. If I get so scared I lose my mind, I might forget how to do the Strength of 100 seal. Izanami replied without looking up. So when you go on missions, pray for me every day that I stay safe. I wish you long life. Sasuke muttered and vanished with a body flicker, cursing as he went. Not long after Sasuke left, Hinata appeared before Izanami with a body flicker. Red Sensei asked me to tell you we should go to the Hokage's office immediately. Hokage-sama wants to see us. Izanami's eyes lit. Given the timing, he guessed why Tsunade had summoned both of them. He grinned at Hinata. You might be getting your wish. Huh? Hinata asked, puzzled. He didn't explain. Instead, he tossed the book aside, swept Hinata up in a princess carry, and took to the air. Oh! Hinata gasped as she flew for the first time, instinctively wrapping her arms around his neck. Looking down at the forest and the village stretching away, her eyes sparkled. Izanami-kun, the village looks beautiful from here. Beautiful, he started, then trailed off. Looking down at her, at the curiosity and softness in her gaze, he smiled. I'll never get tired of looking at Hyuga Hinata. I could look at her picture album all day when I hold it. The compliment hit Hinata like a bolt. Her face flushed. She stammered and curled into him. Her lips curved into a shy, delighted smile. Izanami briefly regretted not having a camera. This moment was perfect and private. He landed on the edge of the urban area at Hinata's request, gently straightened her hair, and she took his hand. They walked to the Hokage building hand in hand, holding hands being Hinata's current limit. Arm in arm would require a higher tolerance for embarrassment. At the entrance, they let go and approached the Hokage's office together. Izanami knocked politely. The door opened, and Shizune stepped out, short black hair, a quiet, delicate face, and a pig in her arms. You must be Izanami and Hyuga Hinata. Please come in, she said with a warm smile. I'm Shizune, Hokage-sama's secretary. The Hokage has been waiting for you. Hokage-sama. Izanami and Hinata bowed as they entered. Tsunade sat behind the desk, chin in her hands, studying them. Tsunade's expression was serious. I summoned you because you were the two most outstanding Genin in the Chunin exams. Your performance in the third stage was perfect. You won both your matches against a princess of an allied country and the Ichibi Jinchuriki. You put them in their place. Well done. Her face softened into a smile of praise, then hardened again. I've reviewed your academy records and your written exams. They're flawless. Therefore, I now officially promote Genin Izanami and Genin Hyuga Hinata to Konoha Chunin. Thank you, Hokage-sama. They bowed again. Hinata's joy shone plainly on her face. Izanami, Hinata, these are your vests. Shizune smiled as she handed 2 green flak jackets to Izanami and Hinata. Thank you, Miss Shizune, Hinata said softly. She would have put hers on right away if her kimono hadn't been so cumbersome. Izanami smiled politely, but he couldn't hide his dislike for the green, too bland for his taste. He decided then that even if he became a jonin someday, he'd wear whatever he pleased, like Kurenai Yuhi. Once you have a reputation, people look at your name, not the vest on your chest. Tsunade, who had been serious just moments before, relaxed and smiled. Your teammates in the same squad. It's rare in the Chunin exams for 2 members of one team to be promoted together. You should decide now who will be the squad leader. Yes, Hokage-sama. Both Izanami and Hinata nodded and exchanged a small smile. Either Tsunade didn't know them well yet, or she was teasing. Everyone who knew Izanami's strength and his relationship with Hinata would know who'd be leading Team 8. Tsunade continued, explaining the privileges of Chunin, the right to lead teams on missions, permits to leave the village, and, if there's no Jonin instructor, the captain receives the lion's share of rewards while Chunin teammates get more than Genin. Then she waved them off. All right, you may go. As Hinata moved to bow and salute, Izanami stopped her with a single word. Hokage-sama, I'd like to recommend someone to join Konohagakure. Tsunade and Shizune snapped to attention. Tsunade's brow furrowed. You are one of our top students and a Konohagakure Chunin now. You should understand how careful Konoha is about new members. We don't let spies or people with questionable backgrounds in. Does the person you recommend have a clean, verifiable background? I believe she does. Izanami nodded. Is she a civilian or a ninja? Tsunade asked, interested. She's a ninja, and she's a descendant of the Whirlpool clan. Tsunade choked on her tea. The cup sloshed and scattered drops over the paperwork on her desk. She stared at Izanami, stunned. What did you say? A descendant of which clan? The Whirlpool clan. She's one of our people, Izanami repeated. Then, as if continuing to lay everything on the table, he coughed lightly. Shizune patted Tsunade's back and pressed a pressure point to steady her. Her face, however, showed surprise. No wonder the intelligence had reported such vast chakra. Tsunade's astonishment softened into something almost like affection. She remembered the reports Shizune had brought, Izanami's inventions, the super hurricane serial spheres, and his combination natures. Yet those were things a Hokage could simply admire from afar. Blood relations were different. The Whirlpool clan was distantly related to the Senju. Relations mattered. You're a descendant of the Whirlpool clan? Tsunade asked again, incredulous. Yes, Izanami nodded. Without waiting for more questions, he rolled up his sleeve and extended his forearm toward Hinata. She understood immediately, took his wrist, and gently bit down. A strand of blue chakra appeared where Izanami's skin met Hinata's lips and flowed into her like a current. Physical healing. Tsunade murmured, trance-like. The method was familiar. Her grandmother had used it, and she hadn't seen it in years. Seeing the chakra transfer, Tsunade's eyes softened with unexpected warmth. You awakened physical healing through your bloodline, she said, amazed. Even among Whirlpool descendants, few manifest that. Your bloodline purity must be very high, but your hair is black, not red. That's strange. Perhaps I also have Senju blood, Izanami said, and then spread his open palm. A small green sapling sprouted from his hand. The Hokage's office went deathly silent. Tsunade, Shizune, Hinata, all three stared, mouths agape. Would release, Tsunade breathed, a mix of disbelief and exhilaration. Shizune's face mirrored hers. Would release, the legendary Kekkei Genkai, was as close to myth as the ninja god. Hinata covered her mouth, stunned and thrilled. Only she knew Izanami also possessed the reincarnation eye. She'd assumed his mysterious ocular power was his Kekkei Genkai. She had not imagined he was a hybrid of the Whirlpool and Senju clans who had awakened Wood Release. If word of this spread, it would shake Konoha, the land of fire, even the entire Shinobi world. The bloodline limit that had once unified the land had a unique, near-sacred status in Konoha. With Wood Release revealed, no doubt her father or the elders would no longer stand in the way of a connection between Hinata's family and Izanami's. Tsunade stepped forward and gripped his wrist, pouring green chakra into him. Her face lit up as she felt the vitality and the yang-natured chakra, undeniably Wood Release. She laughed, clapped his shoulder, and said with a blend of reprimand and pride, "You brat, this is something you clearly awakened long ago and kept hidden. How did you hold back?" "I planned to," Izanami said with a faint smile. But a 13-year-old who wiped out the strongest noble ninja clan in the world overnight and escaped from a sealed Konoha, who would dare use it openly? Tsunade's smile faltered for a heartbeat as she studied the boy who knew too much for his years. She guessed then that he had also awakened a mind's eye of the Kagura. Her expression grew tender and a little pained. "You kept it well. You did the right thing," she said. Then, with pride, she patted his shoulder again. "But from now on, you don't have to hide. This old woman will protect you." "That's the sentence I was waiting for, Hokage-sama," Izanami said, crushing the withered sapling in his palm and exchanging a warm look with her. From that moment, his status would shift dramatically. Strength alone might have been enough to impress some, but Wood Release would open doors no power could deny. The Hyuga would be hard-pressed to resist what the whole village would covet. Tsunade's expression turned businesslike. "All right, where is the person you recommended?" "Her name is Karen. She's a red-haired Whirlpool descendant. She's currently staying on Sakura Street in the Land of Fire, Izanami said. Hinata and I met her in the Death Forest during the Chunin exams. She was then a ninja from the Grass Village, but because she awakened physical healing, they used her like a walking medical kit. If I hadn't recognized the whirlpool aura with my mind's eye, she might have died from life force depletion. Tsunade's eyes darkened. Fools, she sneered. Because her chakra was weak, they dismissed the possibility she might be a whirlpool descendant. As if red hair were common in the shinobi world. No wonder Konoha has declined so in barely a decade. She turned to Izanami, decisive. Your recommendation alone isn't enough. Go bring Karen here. I will be her guarantor. Yes, Izanami nodded. That was one reason he'd revealed his wood release now. If Karen were brought in under a mere Chunin's recommendation, the interrogation division might lock her in a dark room and use psychological tricks, genjutsu, or mind reading to pry secrets out. Some truths, like having Tenzo in his custody, could be exposed. But with the Sannin or the Hokage as guarantor, there would be no such risk. High-ranking backers could bend the rules when needed. Outside the Hokage building, Hinata could no longer contain her excitement. She threw herself into Izanami's arms, gripping him tightly around the waist and murmuring her happiness. Izanami hugged her back, forehead to forehead, smiling. Are you happy? She nodded earnestly. It wasn't only about being promoted to Chunin. It was the joy of knowing nothing now stood between her and Izanami. Flushed with emotion, Hinata looked up and began, Izanami, I. He gently pressed a finger to her lips and glanced around. Someone's watching. Let's move someplace more private. Oh, she murmured and followed him down a narrow side street. Once out of sight, Izanami turned to her. What were you about to say? Nothing. Hinata dropped her gaze and fiddled with her fingers, suddenly shy again. She must have been bright red. Izanami smiled, holding her small hand. He already knew what she'd intended to say. He'd interrupted because such words deserved a better, more romantic moment, and because he wouldn't let her be the only one to say them. Are you hungry? How about we go out for yakiniku today? He asked. She brightened. Then she glanced at the scroll tucked into her belt and asked, We've both been promoted. Should we invite everyone to celebrate? They're probably on missions right now. Let's have a big meal once our new house is finished, Izanami said after a moment's thought. First, let's go find Hanabi. Okay, she's starting school soon too. Let's spend the next few days with her. Hand in hand, the young couple walked along the sunlit path. For a moment, in the soft light behind them, the shadows of two children in snowman costumes appeared, also holding hands. Chapter 94. Hinata takes the initiative again. A humble licker. After becoming a Chunin, Izanami could finally come and go in Konoha openly. After a simple celebratory dinner with Hanabi and Team 8 for his and Hinata's promotions, Izanami took Hinata to pick up Karin the next morning. They traveled much like Izanami had with his sister-in-law, stopping to take photos, teasing each other, and gradually making their way toward Sakura Street. It was Hinata's first time leaving the village alone with Izanami, and she behaved like a delighted child. She grabbed the camera, refusing to hand it back, and for once shed her usual reserve. She asked Izanami to pose, to use transformation technique, and insisted on taking countless solo and group shots. There was a photo of Izanami floating by a waterfall with his hands behind his back, a storm-release light orb in one hand, staring down like he ruled the world. Another, taken by a Hinata shadow clone, showed Izanami transformed into his child form, awkwardly forced into a smile as Hinata held him. Hinata herself used transformation technique to become a child and fulfilled her fantasy of being carried high. She straddled Izanami's shoulders, fingers intertwined with his, beaming. When they were alone, Hinata's courage seemed to swell. She linked arms with him, leaned in against his shoulder, and smiled so happily that Izanami kissed her on the cheek. She looked stunned in the photo. There was even the ridiculous picture Izanami had teased about. After some coaxing, Hinata, blushing furiously, agreed to swim in the spring pool beneath the waterfall in a school swimsuit. The shot of her emerging from the water was striking. Months had passed since they bought the camera, and both Izanami and Hinata had naturally become excellent photographers. Their choices of lighting, angles, and composition were almost always perfect. Practically every developed photo was cover-worthy. They kept their favorite images private in their own albums. Izanami had been away on a mission the last time Hinata had free time, so to make up for it, he took her through villages, towns, and bustling cities along the route, letting her sample local delicacies. If a dish particularly delighted her, Izanami sometimes sent a wood clone back discreetly to bribe the shop owner for the recipe, planning little surprises for her later. Love required effort, he thought. They spent over a week traveling before finally arriving at Sakura Street. Naturally, their trip included the usual shared comforts, staying together in inns, scrubbing each other's backs, washing each other's hair, and trading acupressure massages. It wasn't Hinata's first time washing Izanami's back, but the last time had been when he was blind from the early stages of his reincarnation eye awakening. Then, her worry overcame any shyness. This time, with him able to see, it was intensely stimulating for her. Even wearing a bathrobe, Hinata flushed, had trouble catching her breath, and felt lightheaded, though she didn't faint, proof her nerves had toughened considerably. "Izayoi-kun, Lady Hinata, you're here!" Karen had apparently sensed them. She came out to meet them at the villa's entrance. "Karen, long time no see," Hinata greeted with a soft smile, raising a hand. "Just call me Hinata," Karen replied. "Then I won't be formal. Hinata, long time no see." Karen nodded with a smile. Izanami examined Karen with a satisfied nod. "Not bad. Your spirit, energy, and vitality have strengthened. This is how a member of the Whirlpool clan should be." "Hey, it's all thanks to Izayoi-kun. I eat so well every day I feel like I'm getting fat," Karen said, laughing and poking her slim waist. "You haven't slacked off, have you? Learned that technique yet?" Izanami asked. I've learned the Rasengan." Karen enthusiastically condensed a blue-white sphere of chakra in her hand. "Good. That shows your chakra control and shape transformation are at a solid level," Izanami said, revealing the purpose of their visit. "Pack your things and come back to Konoha with us. We'll start the next stage of your training there." Karen's eyes lit up, and she instinctively stood at attention. Yes, her life with the Shadow Clone had been comfortable, food and training in abundance, but simply being able to stay near Izanami made her happier than anything else. Even serving as a Shadow Clone was enough to satisfy her when it involved him. The idea of joining Konoha, seeing Izanami whenever she wanted, and perhaps receiving guidance directly from his main body sent a silly grin across her face. Hinata, watching Karen's dreamy expression, tilted her head with a touch of pity. If joining Konoha made her this ecstatic, her previous life must truly have been harsh. Hinata resolved to be kinder to Izanami's clan members in future. Inside the villa, Izanami asked Karen to show Hinata around and pack while he went to the basement. The basement was full of puppets, not made from mere materials, but from corpses, retaining the abilities they had in life. Their bodies were modified to produce weapons, release light bullets, and more. Leading them was Danzo Shimura himself, his arm reattached, a right Sharingan that had evolved into a Mangekyo. While Izanagi could not be used in its original form, the Mangekyo's power remained, and with Hashirama cells grafted into one arm, its eye chakra consumption was far lower than it had been for Uchiha Itachi, almost preventing blindness. Combined with his own skills, Danzo was still a Kage-level warrior, and in Izanami's hands he was the strongest puppet of all. Once Izanami mastered Yin-Yang release, Danzo would likely be able to use Izanagi again, becoming even more fearsome. Danzo was the perfect commander for a puppet army, the hidden darkness of the ninja world, even after death, serving from the shadows. After sealing the puppets into a large scroll, Izanami returned to two safes. He stored the safe containing Kato's assets into a sealing scroll, and then opened the other, which held numerous scrolls of varying size. One oversized scroll was Konoha's lost book of sealing techniques. He took a red scroll sealed with the word Whirlpool and, from his own garments, produced a yellow scroll. At a desk, he unrolled both. The red scroll contained many sealing techniques. The yellow scroll was blank. In a hurried, nearly illegible hand, Izanami copied the sealing techniques from the red scroll onto the new yellow one. His identity, part Senju, part Whirlpool, accounted for much of his prowess, the strength of 100, sudden bursts of chakra, and so on. But the Whirlpool clan's sealing techniques could not be explained merely by his family line. Konoha was only 60 years old. If his parents had possessed such scrolls, their social standing would have reflected it. Izanami's bloodline pointed to a generational awakening instead. If Hinata and Uchiha Sasuke were to openly train in the Yin Seal and the Whirlpool clan's sealing arts, Izanami needed a plausible cover. Karin would be that shield. If Karin joined Konoha with this scroll and claimed it as her clan inheritance, the problem would be solved. Having finished copying the techniques, Izanami sealed the second safe and returned upstairs with the two scrolls. He handed the yellow scroll to Karin and instructed her seriously, "Karin, this is a Whirlpool clan sealing scroll. When you train with it, if anyone asks where it came from, you must say it was left to you by your mother, hidden in a very secret place, and that you only brought me to find it after leaving the grass village." "Yes," Karin answered with solemnity. She had been to Wave Country to assist a shadow clone and had witnessed legendary bloodline powers. She knew Izanami kept secrets. Still, she didn't mind. Even if Izanami were a bad person, she would follow him. The same went for Hinata. During the third exam, when Hinata discovered that the Izanami who had participated was a shadow clone, she'd suspected he'd been involved in the Konoha Crush plan and had done things no one knew about. The strength of 100 and the Yin Seal were a plausible explanation. With their packing finished, Izanami, Hinata, and Karin set off for Konoha. They arrived on September 10th. After helping Karin register, Izanami made a shadow clone to take the original scroll back into safekeeping, then escorted Karin to see Tsunade. "You are Karin?" Tsunade asked in the Hokage's office. "Yes, Hokage-sama," Karin replied timidly, eyes downcast. Tsunade's scrutinizing gaze softened into warmth. "You've been wronged all these years. Welcome to Konoha." "Thank you, Hokage-sama." Karin bowed repeatedly, astonished at how easily she'd been accepted. "Would you like me to arrange a place for you, or would you prefer to stay by my side as my secretary and disciple?" Tsunade, always eager for talent, offered. Tsunade, who shared both Senju and Uzumaki lineage, understood the Whirlpool clan's sealing arts and medical genius better than most. Whirlpool members were natural seals and medical ninjutsu users. Those who awakened unique abilities were exceptional. If someone awakened the adamantine sealing chains, they were an ideal Jinchuriki candidate. Even if Karin didn't awaken that chain, her gifts were perfectly suited to inherit her clan's legacy. With a few years' training, Konoha could have an ace skilled in combat, sealing, sensing, and medical ninjutsu, perhaps even more promising than Sakura Haruno as a future pillar. Karin was stunned. She instinctively glanced at Izanami for guidance. He smiled and answered before she could. "Hokage-sama, Karin is my family and my subordinate." "What's the connection?" Tsunade asked with a scoff, folding her arms. "We all share the same bloodline, and you're my Hokage, so of course my subordinate becomes yours," Izanami said lightly. Tsunade waved it off. "Besides, at your age, can you really train someone properly? You have missions. If Karin stays with me, her talent will develop faster, and the Whirlpool clan's potential will truly show." Her words made sense, and Izanami hesitated. Then Tsunade added, "If you want to repay him, train with me here. I'll make you strong enough and give you the status to help him." Karin's face lit up at that. She looked at Izanami no longer pleading, but expectant. Though she yearned for Tsunade's mentorship, she cared most about his approval. This was classic Karin from the original tale, a devoted people-pleaser turned even more extreme by her upbringing. Izanami nodded. "All right, Karin, become her disciple." "Still calling me Hokage-sama?" Tsunade teased. Teacher!" Karin quickly corrected herself, scratching her head and offering an embarrassed grin that reminded Tsunade of Uzumaki Kushina. The Hokage's affection for the girl deepened. "From now on, you'll live with me," Tsunade decided. "No." Karin shook her head resolutely and looked at Izanami. "I want to live with Izayoi-kun." "All right," Tsunade said with a shrug. "But starting tomorrow, you must be here at 9 every morning." "Yes," Karin agreed instantly. "Fine, you can go. Come to me if you need anything," Tsunade said before returning to her paperwork. Outside the Hokage building, Hinata, who had been waiting, smiled. "Congratulations, Karin." "Heh, as long as I can help Izayoi-kun, that's all that matters," Karin said, the same silly, eager grin on her face. Izanami smiled without comment. He'd agreed because Tsunade was the best person to train Karin. He had the strength of 100 and sealing knowledge, but he lacked two crucial things Tsunade possessed: the strength of 100 seals she developed, and access to the Shikotsu Forest summoning scroll. Like Mount Myoboku and Ryuchi Cave, Shikotsu had its own sage techniques, and as a descendant of the sage body, Karin was a good candidate for sage training. If Karin mastered sealing, strength of 100, medical ninjutsu, the yin seal, the strength of 100 seal, and a sage technique, along with her 3 unique abilities, she could rival the 5 Kage in power and be more worthy than Sakura to become a new Sannin for the final conflict. With Karin under Tsunade and a contractor to Shikotsu Forest, Izanami could also persuade them to allow Hinata to form a contract. It was 2 birds with 1 stone, and that pleased him. "Let's buy daily supplies for Karin first," Izanami said with a grin. "Tonight, we'll invite Hanabi for a welcome feast." The 2 girls agreed, and the trio went shopping. That evening, the 4 of them, Izanami, Hinata, Karin, and Hanabi, held a banquet at Uchiha Sasuke's house. Sasuke was still away on a mission. It had been half a month. Izanami and Hinata, having been through the land of rivers, weren't surprised. 7th-class missions tended to carry that kind of drama. Sasuke was likely embroiled in some intense battle. After the feast, Izanami escorted the Hyuga sisters back to their compound. So Karin officially joined Konoha as Tsunade's disciple. Sakura Haruno hadn't been offered that honor first, and thus began to defy fate. A few days later, rested from their month of downtime, Izanami and Hinata finally set out on their first mission as promoted Chunin. Shino Aburame had arrived at the usual rendezvous early and was waiting when they showed up in green vests, the vest marking their first time leading a mission. He looked at them flatly, and Izanami detected a hint of grievance in his tone. "Did you forget about us?" Shino asked in that dry way of his. "It took a bit of time to bring Karin back for Hokage-sama," Izanami explained with a chuckle. "As soon as I finished, I got you together." Shino remained silent, hands in his pockets, but Izanami and Hinata both suspected a flicker of disdain behind his sunglasses. They cleared their throats and moved to depart. Then Shino's expression froze. He realized something terrifying. Red Sensei wasn't here this time, and Izanami was leading the team. Along the way, Hinata would probably be unusually affectionate. He pictured the 2 of them and felt a dreadful certainty. Without Red Sensei to shield him, he and Aburame was about to be subjected to a non-stop barrage of PDA and be figuratively force-fed dog food until he wanted to crawl into a hole. The thought made the corners of his mouth twitch into a resigned, rueful grin. Chapter 95. 1 month. A punch woke up Tanzu. Time flew. A month passed in the blink of an eye. In those 4 weeks, Team 8 carried out 3 missions, 2 C rank and 1 that had been upgraded to A rank. To be precise, all 3 were initially C rank. 1 was later raised to A when the client insisted. As soon as a mission involved fighting Shinobi, even if they were rogue and weaker than academy students, the job immediately qualified as B rank. Wealthy patrons and nobles didn't mind the cost and usually demanded B rank or higher protection, asking the village to send strong Shinobi, but not everyone wanted to pay. Plenty of cheapskates hoped for luck and tried to get B rank or higher results for C rank pay. The first 2 C rank escorts went smoothly for Team 8. There was simply no way they would be ambushed. Besides Izanami's reincarnation eye, he had the mind's eye of the Kagura, sweeping tens of kilometers, and Hinata's Byakugan could almost see 30 kilometers. For tracking and scent, there was Shino Aburame and his insects. Their ability to detect danger and survive was ridiculous. Unless an enemy used space-time ninjutsu, even flying wouldn't help. Team 8's position would be exposed long before any attack. They were nothing like Team 7, where 9 out of 10 missions ended in chaos. If a client was reasonable, even when ambushes lay ahead, Team 8 would suggest a detour and only charge C-rank rates. The 3rd mission didn't go that way. The client was a stubborn, arrogant fellow, poorly off but pretending to be noble. He ignored Izanami's warning that a bandit group of rogue shinobi lay 20-odd kilometers ahead and insulted the team as liars. Without any adults present, the young members of Team 8, full of pride, decided to teach him a lesson. When they encountered the bandits, Team 8 immediately abandoned the route, scaring the client into a panic. He hurriedly tried to upgrade the job to B rank, but Izanami refused, saying they might not be able to guarantee victory. In the end, the client wildly raised the pay to the highest A rank, 1 million ryo, and after Hinata and Shino handled the enemies overwhelmingly, he meekly paid up. He wasn't going to risk being on the wrong side of these kids. So Team 8 got an A-rank mission on their record. After 3 missions in a row, Izanami and Hinata felt fine. Only Shino complained. Izanami had led all 3 missions. Between the Mind's Eye, Byakugan, and Shino's insects, they scouted constantly, and otherwise they moved and ate like tourists, sticking together, sitting together, leaning on one another while on watch, even taking turns sleeping in each other's laps. Even Shino's insects seemed to lose their appetite. They felt sated despite not eating. After the sequence of missions, Shino finally begged for a rest and got some relief. Hinata regretted it. On missions, Izanami belonged solely to her, doting on her and no one else, something she only truly felt when they were out of the village. Construction on Izanami's new house had hit the halfway mark after 2 months. At this rate, it should finish by mid to late December. Unfortunately, his wood release had a range problem. It was great for big tasks, but it made delicate work difficult and even slowed progress. If it were a normal house, he could have fixed it in a single move. Wood release, 3 rooms and 1 living room technique. Morning in the land of rice fields, deep inside an underground base. Ha! Damn third Hokage! A hoarse curse tore through a dim room. Orochimaru stood in a small bathroom, scrubbing blood from his hands. The pain in his palms was excruciating, more than physical, a pain that seemed to gnaw at his soul. He couldn't move freely. The body he wore rejected him. Outside, Yakushi Kabuto mixed medicines, worry creasing his face. Orochimaru, you've lost the souls in your arms, Kabuto said. This body wasn't originally yours. The loss is causing rejection and accelerating its collapse. If you don't complete the reincarnation within a week, the body will fall apart. I know. You don't need to remind me. Orochimaru ground his teeth, his mood colder than usual. Watching the endless blood wash away, he said quietly, I have to reincarnate quickly and bring Sasuke from Konoha. Time is tight. Kabuto adjusted his glasses. The cursed seal hasn't been implanted yet. With his current state, Sasuke might not evolve to cursed seal level 2 quickly. If that can't happen, even if you succeed in reincarnating, you won't be able to get Jugo's power. Heh, Kabuto, don't underestimate that boy's resolve, Orochimaru replied, a sinister chuckle in his voice. To kill him, even if he dies, he'll crawl back out of hell. That kind of will help him surpass all hardships. As long as he dies once, he will be truly reborn. Kabuto nodded slowly, beginning to understand the method Orochimaru planned to use to accelerate Sasuke's evolution. Have the Sound Four bring Sasuke here within 3 days, Orochimaru ordered. Yes. Kabuto left the room, but stopped at a door in the corridor when a weak voice floated out. He paused, adjusted his glasses, and then pushed the door open. Dusk by the Nanga River. A girl's bright shout detonated the water like a torpedo. Sasuke, sparks of electricity dancing around him, widened his 3 Tomoe Sharingan as a column of water exploded skyward before him. His heart still trembled with lingering fear. The rain soaked through him. Across the water, the red-haired girl stood in the spray, her red eyes flashing a shade even more crimson than the Sharingan, sinister in his view. You idiot! Were you trying to kill me? Sasuke roared, the fight drained out of him after 1 punch. Karin blinked, scratched her head. But didn't you tell me to go all out? I told you to have a taijutsu spar on the river's surface to help me train chakra control. Haven't you mastered lightning release chakra transformation? Sasuke sounded exhausted, as if facing a female version of Uzumaki Naruto. Oh. Karin thought for a moment, smiled sheepishly. Sorry, I've been training strength of 100 lately. It was a reflex. Please stop reflexing. Sasuke's heart thudded. If she'd used lightning release to stimulate her cells and then punched like that, if she'd hit Chidori level speed, he might already be dead. He deactivated Chidori stream and said coolly, Forget it, we'll train another time. He didn't mean it. There would be no next time with Karin. Hinata was better, quiet, reliable, a training partner who spared his pride when he needed it. The joy of awakening his 3 Tomoe had been snuffed by Karin's punch, and Sasuke retreated with a lonely silhouette. Karin tilted her head, puzzled by his sudden mood swing, then shrugged and leapt over to Izanami, who was fishing nearby. "It's almost dark. Are you going to keep fishing? Should I make dinner and bring it to you?" she asked, beaming. "No need. Let's go back together." Izanami glanced at the full bucket and packed away the rod. "I'll carry it." "No, you're soaked. Go change first." "I'm fine. I'm strong now. I won't catch a cold." "All right, fish soup tonight." The girl skipped along, half helping with the water bucket, sometimes walking beside Izanami, sometimes skipping ahead. She looked vibrant, a far cry from the solemn girl a few months ago. After joining Konoha, Karin had become livelier and happier, cooking for Izanami and Sasuke during the day, working at the Hokage building, where both her teacher and colleagues treated her kindly. The Jonin and Chunin no longer looked down on her. She had friends, Hinata, the calm young heiress, and Hanabi, the mischievous little sister, and she kept waking from sleep wondering if this happiness was a dream. Karin knew it was all because of Izanami, so she trained harder and took meticulous care of him, cooking, laundry, chores. If Izanami wanted to, he could live a pampered life just as during the Reincarnation Eye's recovery, food brought to his mouth, clothes put on for him. Even Sasuke had adapted to Karin's care. At the Uchiha mansion, Sasuke had already changed and sat on the veranda reading while waiting for dinner. Normally, he hunted and cooked himself, or he'd starve if he relied on Izanami. While Karin went inside to change, Izanami stored the fishing gear, then returned to his room and tossed 2 scrolls to Sasuke. Sasuke picked them up with a puzzled look. "What's this?" "A gift to congratulate you on your eye evolution," Izanami said with a smile. The words warmed Sasuke inside, but he masked it with tsundere snorts. "You're premature. Wait until my eye evolves into the Mangekyo before giving gifts." He couldn't help himself. He quickly slit one scroll open. "This is a Genjutsu scroll and a fire release scroll." Sasuke blinked. "Where'd you get all these Genjutsu training methods? Fire release, great fire destruction, great fire annihilation, dragon flame song. Aren't these Uchiha techniques? How did they get into your hands?" "I stole them," Izanami answered bluntly, "so you can't complain." Sasuke's eyes widened as he thought something through. "You weren't the real body during the Chunin exams, were you?" "Nope, no award either," Izanami said with a grin, poking Sasuke. "Now you're my accomplice. If I get caught, I'll blame you." Childish." Sasuke snorted, but couldn't put the scrolls down. The Sharingan's stages were named, 1 Tomoe for enhanced perception, 2 Tomoe for copying, 3 Tomoe for Genjutsu dominance. The 3 Tomoe made the user terrifying in one-on-one combat. No hand seals needed. A glance could fold an enemy into a Genjutsu world and kill them before they reacted. Mastering many Genjutsu techniques was essential to unleashing the full power of the 3 Tomoe. Izanami's scrolls were perfect timing. "Wait, this Bringer of Darkness technique, isn't that a forbidden jutsu? You have it too?" Sasuke's golden eyes shone. "I can casually craft S-rank secret techniques, so stealing a few top-tier jutsu is nothing," Izanami said, rolling his eyes. Sasuke stared, then reached for another tease. "So you still have a lot of good stuff stashed away?" "Of course," Izanami smirked. "Call me Godfather, and I'll give you another good thing." "Godfather," Sasuke blurted reflexively. Izanami stared. Sasuke realized he'd overplayed it and flushed. "Do I still have any face left in front of you? How many times have you taken advantage of me, you bastard? Hurry up and give it to me." Izanami went quiet, then reluctantly capitulated. "Fine, you win." He was about to hand over one more scroll when the sound of running footsteps on wooden boards interrupted them. Karin appeared on the veranda in home clothes, face serious. "Izayoi-kun." "I know." Izanami smiled and nodded. "You go change. Sasuke and I will greet the guests." "Right." Karin ran inside. Sasuke's expression turned grave. "Enemies?" "Orochimaru sent people to pick you up," Izanami said lightly. Sasuke's face went stony. Persistent old snake. "He's not coming himself, just some of his subordinates." Izanami's voice hardened. "One of them's pretty strong. If they fight here, your house might be destroyed. I'll go meet them first." He rose into the air. Sasuke followed with a body flicker. Karin returned in combat clothes and launched after them. The Sound Four, who had slipped into Konoha during the sensing team's rotation, were already in position. Tayuya's face changed, her genjutsu senses spiking. "What's going on? Weren't we told the Uchiha compound only had Sasuke? Why are there 2 huge chakra signatures?" "Were we discovered?" Kidomaru asked, eyes narrowing as he glanced at the white-haired boy leading them, their former commander. "Keep going," Kimimaro ordered in a flat, uncolored voice. His face was pasty and thin, but his resolve was absolute. "I'll handle those two. Your mission is to take Sasuke away." Kimimaro's voice held a strange nostalgia, as if he were seeing a long-ago scene. "Once you capture Sasuke, leave Konoha immediately. I'll buy you time. Orochimaru, since I cannot become your reincarnation vessel, let me dance my last dance for you." By the end, his voice faded to a whisper only he could hear. His expression mixed longing and acceptance, as if the one who had given his life meaning had returned. Orochimaru, meaning, purpose, hung in his words, and Kimimaro prepared to fight with everything he had. Chapter 96, Wood Release Exposed, Gambler's Time. "They're here!" The four sound ninja burst out of the forest and, before they reached the Uchiha compound, spotted a figure hovering ahead. A flying ninja. It's Izanami. He's the one who beat Gaara at the Chunin exams. Be careful. He knows a storm-release secret technique, long-range and deadly. They recognized Izanami instantly and warned one another. Kimimaro fished a photograph out from his robes, glanced at it, then up at Izanami. After confirming this was not Uchiha Sasuke, he tossed the photo aside. "You go find Sasuke. I'll handle him." Kimimaro raised a hand and whispered, "Dead bone pulse, 10-finger drilling bullets." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Small holes opened at his fingertips, and segments of finger bone shot outward like bullets. The bones fired, regrew, and fired again in a steady barrage, a swarm of white projectiles aimed at Izanami. The four sound ninja didn't hesitate. The moment Kimimaro moved, they split into afterimages, scattering left and right to bypass Izanami's position and head for Sasuke, whose chakra lingered deeper in the compound. Izanami didn't chase them. His gaze stayed fixed on Kimimaro, focused through the bone storm. Suddenly, several status markers flickered around Kimimaro. 2 purple and 3 blue. Bloodline limit, dead bone pulse. Kage level aptitude. Chakra control, jutsu genius. Seeing the Kage level aptitude tag, Izanami's expression tightened with a hint of regret. Thanks to the cursed seal's tampering with natural energy, Kimimaro had achieved an extraordinary change in fate. At 15 and just entering a growth spurt, he might have become a major figure by Shippuden, if not for his blood disease. He was related to the Otsutsuki by blood and a genius besides, an alarming combination. But this Kimimaro was in temporary recovery. He might not even make it back to the Sound Village alive. Still, that made him useful. Gamble time. Izanami clapped once. Gale palm. A howling wind, shaped like a giant distorted hand, slapped aside the bone barrage. Then Izanami descended, giving up his altitude. Kimimaro hesitated for a heartbeat, then surged forward. Black markings blossomed across his skin like spilled ink, spreading until his pale flesh turned brownish black. His back arched, white bone spikes and a tail burst forth. He looked like a humanoid lizard. Curse mark level 2. With little time left, he went all out. He yanked a spine from his back, softened it into a whip, and lashed at Izanami. The latter only smiled. "That's not big enough. Let me show you something larger." Wood release, exploding gun tree. Wooden vines erupted from the earth like snakes, knocking Kimimaro's bone whip aside. They coiled and swelled into a gigantic tree attempting to engulf him. Kimimaro, frighteningly fast in his transformed state, slipped past the bulk and, using the tree as cover, shot across to Izanami's left. He thrust his spine like a spear at Izanami's head. Izanami didn't turn. A hard root sprang up and smashed the bone spear aside. "Wood release, adamantine attacking trees," he said dismissively. "Too weak." Kimimaro's face shifted in surprise. He reshaped his bones into thick spikes that erupted from his back, turning himself into a hedgehog. As Izanami closed with a shunshin, he punched forward, right into the bone spikes. The spikes couldn't pierce Izanami's fist. A blue chakra aura flared and became a distorted shockwave. It shattered the bone spikes, harder than steel, and the residual force slammed into Kimimaro, hurling him through the air. So strong," Kimimaro coughed, blood foaming at his mouth. His organs churned. Even a bone membrane over his body couldn't withstand the impact. He landed and stared at Izanami with bleak eyes. Even at curse mark level 2, he was outclassed. The sound ninja wouldn't last a hit from this man either. A decision hardened in Kimimaro's gaze. He only needed to stall. According to Kabuto, Sasuke had only awakened a Tutomo Sharingan, no threat to the Sound Four. Buy them time. A beast-like growl escaped him as his body flashed red. He poured most of his chakra, the same that had been suppressing his illness, into the ground and roared, "Dead bone pulse, dance of the clematis." The ground trembled. Sensing teams and nearby shinobi felt the spike of chakra. Some on the outskirts looked toward the forest, alarmed. What's that location? Nanga River? Is Sasuke practicing ninjutsu? That aura, this isn't pure yin chakra. Orders crackled out, and reinforcements raced toward the Uchiha compound. As Kimimara's shout died away, rows of bone spikes, astonishing in length and thickness, burst from the earth like a white tsunami, sweeping toward Izanami. The spikes sprang up so fast even a flying ninja couldn't easily escape them. But Izanami didn't flinch. He clapped, smiling. A wonderful technique. Such a finale deserves a proper reply. Blue chakra flared around him. Wood release, deep forest emergence. A deeper quake rolled through the area, enveloping the battlefield and shuddering the Uchiha compound. Sasuke and Karin, locked in combat and holding the upper hand, felt the tremor. Konoha shinobi surging toward the scene felt it too. The ground split as colossal trees, truly monstrous like ancient serpents, shot up, straightening from underground with deafening force. The trees grew taller and thicker than any in the surrounding forest, more like towering pillars than trunks. One arriving ninja whispered, trembling, wood release. Others stared, open-mouthed, until someone shouted, "The range! Turn back!" More trees erupted, filling the open space with trunks so massive they pushed aside smaller trees and toppled buildings. The green waves surged, sweeping over the surrounding forest and toward the Nanga River. The Uchiha compound took the brunt. Many buildings were smashed, though the technique's main advance aimed at the river spared total destruction. Still, a tenth of the compound was gone. Birds and beasts fled in panic, but many were trapped. When the dust settled, an imposing forest of titanic trees stood where the clearing had been, comparable to the Death Forest. From miles away, Konoha's outskirts could see the absurd contrast. The normal forest beside it seemed minor by comparison. A finger pointed upward. Under the evening sky, a tiny figure hovered above the new forest. Is that a person? A flying ninja. It's him, the genius who developed the storm release secret technique. Wasn't he Kurenai's student, Sasuke's classmate? He's rumored to be bloodline capable. His chakra is powerful. Recognition spread. Then realization struck. Faces turned stunned. Eyes tracked Izanami as he raised a hand and condensed a rotating blue-white sphere of energy. The air around it shimmered. Izanami wove water, lightning, and fire natures into the mass until it glowed green, flame light coursing through it. Roaring light cannon. He was gambling. Kimimaro was tied up, trapped among the towering trees, a fixed target. Izanami launched the green beam downward. Unlike storm release, Judgment's diffuse electrothermal blast, this was a focused, destructive beam combining multiple natures. It struck Kimimaro's position dead center. Boom! The world convulsed. A mushroom cloud mushroomed from the forest, and even those in Central Street heard the muffled roar. Through the dust, Izanami opened an eye concealed behind colored contacts. The Tensegan was hidden and stared into the crater where Kimimaro had been. The puppet and a swath of towering trees were now dust mixed with soil. Izanami had chosen to gamble away a powerful puppet. If he failed, he'd waste chakra and the puppet. If he won, he might obtain something invaluable, something that could synergize with his Otsutsuki bloodline and be central to future upgrades. It was all or nothing. A few seconds later, two glows, one purple and one blue, flickered within the dust. Only Izanami could see them. They drifted to him and sank into his body. He clenched his fists, his heartbeat a drum in his ears. A voice chimed, mechanical and calm. Ding, you have obtained the talent entry, blue, which overlaps with your own talent entry. Merge or decompose. Ding, you have obtained the talent entry, blind limit, dead bone pulse, purple. Merge or decompose. Merge everything. Afraid of hesitating, Izanami sacrificed the point from the blue entry and chose to merge all the drops. Then he slammed his fist down, committing. He had won the gamble. There had been a 50% chance, nothing, or a drop. Since graduation, Izanami had only scored 2 blue entries from Rock Lee. Now his main body finally got lucky. Elation warmed him. As that settled, the fight between Uchiha Sasuke and Karin came to an end. It's still the same truth. until you reach the Super Kage tier, where power becomes another realm. Battles between Genin and Kage level fighters are primarily battles of information. To the Sound 4, the intel on Uchiha Sasuke was shallow, a 2 Tomoe Sharingan, proficiency in the Uchiha clan's low-level fire release, a knack for stimulating cells with lightning release chakra, and above-average speed, but nothing extraordinary. Because Sasuke hadn't had prominent scenes in the official third exam matches, they didn't even know he had mastered lightning release Chidori. With the information they had, any one of the Sound 4 could have easily beaten him by tapping their curse mark power. Together, they could have killed him in an instant. They never expected that only 2 months had passed, and Sasuke's strength had changed so dramatically. Once the fight began, the Sound 4 were stunned. Sasuke's Sharingan had evolved to 3 Tomoe. He wielded Sharingan Genjutsu, had mastered lightning release nature and shape transformation, and had learned the Chidori stream. Against him, they were like wrestlers facing Kimimaro before his illness, utterly outclassed. Even with Curse Mark Level 2 activated, their speed looked laughable compared to Sasuke. With Karen helping to handle Jirobo and Tayuya, Sasuke combined Sharingan Genjutsu with lightning release chakra stimulation and lightning release Chidori to finish Kidomaru almost instantly before he could even use his spider techniques. Then Izayoi ended the rest even faster. Sasuke didn't even have time to sneer, to open his mouth and taunt Sakon and Ukon properly when the forest surged up and swallowed them all. This is wood release? Sasuke leaped through the shifting trees, dodging branches that attacked without discrimination, eyes wide with shock. This Izayoi, he's a descendant of the Senju and has awakened a legendary Kekkei Genkai. The revelation hit Sasuke hard. He hadn't expected Izayoi to be hiding so much. No wonder Izayoi's chakra was so massive. No wonder he could stand calmly even against the legendary Sannin. No wonder he had the audacity to send a shadow clone to fight the man with the gourd, while his main body took advantage of the Konoha Crush plan to steal the village's ninjutsu scrolls. Sasuke had assumed Izayoi's confidence came from massive chakra and many secret techniques, but he had never suspected Izayoi had been holding back his true power the whole time. Thinking that Izayoi not only had several secret skills, but also a legendary Kekkei Genkai like wood release, Sasuke's mouth twitched. Strangely, there was no trace of envy or resentment. A few years earlier, every loss to Izayoi had left Sasuke bitter and determined to train harder. He had even envied Izayoi's talent, but at some point he had come to accept Izayoi completely. He admired him with the same reverence he had once reserved for Uchiha Itachi. Only around Izayoi did Sasuke feel as spirited as he had when he was a child. When the forest stopped advancing, under Izayoi's control, both Sasuke and Karin were unharmed. The Sound 4, Kidomaru's corpse included, dangled like rice dumplings, bound and suspended from the upper branches of the towering trees. Sasuke and Karin had already finished them off, killing the Sound 4 who had once fought evenly with Konoha's special Jonin and retreated intact, so quickly that Izayoi hadn't even had time to intervene. Still, Izayoi felt relief more than regret at how decisively the two had acted. He descended in front of them and smiled, praise in his voice. "Well done." Actually Sasuke could have handled them alone. I didn't help much," Karin said, rubbing the back of her head with a smile. Sasuke, however, stared at Izayoi and said flatly, "Wood release. You really hid that deep." "It's not that I hid it," Izayoi said, his mouth lifting in a faint smile. "It's just, no one forces me to use wood release." "Ch-ch." Sasuke tilted his head in mock disdain and curled his lip. Karin's gaze drifted toward the darkening forest. "Someone's coming," she said. Before she finished, several figures flew toward them. At their head was Shizune, who had rushed from Central Street after getting the news. Seeing Izayoi and the others safe, she visibly relaxed and smiled. "Izayoi, Karin, Sasuke, the Hokage wants to see you." "We'll go," Izayoi replied. "Take these bodies down to the interrogation division," Shizune ordered the special Jonin behind her. "Yes," came the reply. The Jonin carried the captured bodies away, while Shizune led Izayoi and the others to the Hokage's office. Konoha was not going to sleep that night. The commotion caused by wood release, advent of a world of blooming trees, and the Meikoho blast was too great. From the city outskirts, everyone could see the new forest of towering trees, half the village could see the mushroom cloud. Up close, there was a huge crater, and a number of Konoha shinobi had watched the forest's birth and knew exactly which jutsu had made the mushroom cloud and the crater. Before Izayoi, Karin, and Sasuke had even reported to Tsunade, the rumor had spread that Izayoi, the bright star of the Chunin exams, who had displayed 5 nature transformations and a storm-release secret technique, had learned flying ninjutsu and had been promoted from Genin to Chunin less than half a year after graduation, was a descendant of the Senju and had awakened wood release. The whole village erupted. Someone was stoking the flames behind the scenes. Even commoners were saying the forest and mushroom cloud were the work of Izayoi, who had awakened a Kekkei Genkai not seen since the first Hokage. From civilians to clan elders and Konoha's upper ranks, everyone was abuzz about Izayoi. No one more so than the Hyuga clan. Even Hyuga Neji knew about Izayoi's connection to Hinata and had mocked him, telling him to know his place. Marriage between him and Lady Hinata was impossible, he scoffed. The main house elders, of course, had known of Izayoi's existence for a while. Hinata was not the same as in the old stories. She was extraordinary. Her Byakugan was exceptionally pure, her chakra massive, and by 12, she had not only mastered the secret technique rotation, but also the advanced gentle step, twin lion fists. Her talent outshone Hyuga Hiyashi himself. Because of that, the elders had repeatedly scolded Hiyashi, urging him to brand Hanabi with the caged bird curse mark to secure Hinata's position as first heir. At first, they dismissed Izayoi as a dreamer and planned to separate the two when their relationship became dangerous. The Byakugan of the main branch could not be allowed to seep into an outsider's bloodline. Hinata's Byakugan was so pure, it could be diluted by even the slightest foreign blood. Even if Izayoi married into the family, it would be impossible, so they thought. But then Izayoi shone at the Chunin exams. His astonishing ninjutsu talent changed their minds. Marriage into the family no longer seemed entirely out of the question, as long as Hinata approved. After all, Hinata's current strength had improved thanks to him. Now Hyuga Hiyashi, the prospective father-in-law, was still in a daze. A servant had informed him that the elders had called a clan meeting and requested his presence immediately. He arrived to the elders' relieved, almost adulatory voices. "Clan head, you've raised a fine daughter." "Excellent, excellent. Hiyashi's foresight is remarkable. Good thing he didn't brand Miss Hanabi with the caged bird curse mark prematurely." The clan head's judgment is brilliant. It seems he saw Lord Izayoi's abnormal chakra with his Byakugan long ago and suspected his bloodline. I am ashamed of my own short-sightedness. Luckily, I didn't act on my impulse back then and send someone to warn Lord Izayoi. Otherwise, I would have been a sinner of the Hyuga clan. Listening to the elders' chatter and admiration, Hiyashi was bewildered. What's going on? I'm just a doting father who can't express himself well. If my daughter likes him, that's enough. Even if you refuse to let Izayoi into the main branch, I can, as clan head, make sure Hinata and Izayoi end up together. If you oppose it strongly, I'll make Hanabi clan head and expel Hinata, so neither of my daughters would bear the caged bird curse mark. By then, Izayoi will be Konoha's top warrior, and you won't be able to stop him. As for Izayoi being a Senju descendant with wood release, Hiyashi swore he hadn't known, but a private thrill rose in him. He'd found himself a golden son-in-law. When he first discovered Hinata's changes and learned Izayoi was secretly teaching her, Hiyashi hadn't broken them apart. He had thought Izayoi, who could use shadow clone and low-level wind release at 6, who taught himself tree climbing and water walking, skills not taught at the academy, and who entered the academy already at graduation strength, was simply a civilian prodigy. In the Chunin exams, that civilian genius exceeded even Kakashi Hatake in raw display of talent and was in no way inferior to Minato Namikaze. From then on, Izayoi and Hinata had met little resistance. Even when Izayoi chose to take Hinata away from Konoha for a time, Hiyashi did not interfere. Now this civilian genius had awakened wood release and become a legitimate Senju noble of Konoha. What did such strength, ninjutsu talent, and a Kekkei Genkai mean? Hiyashi and the elders understood better than anyone the path to the 6th Hokage. If Izayoi lived, he would be the obvious candidate. The major ninja clans would not accept anyone else. Konoha had been founded by the Senju, The other clans had followed because Senju Hashirama's wood release had once pacified the world. It was settled. If Izayoi rose, neither of Hiyashi's daughters would ever be marked with the caged bird curse mark. No one would dare force the future Hokage into a political marriage with the Hyuga main house. Whether to curry favor with the Hokage or to give Hyuga descendants hope of awakening wood release, Hinata would be married off. The Byakugan flowing out would be a small price. Thus the main branch could be handed down to Hanabi. Once Izayoi became Hokage, Hiyashi could push through reforms or entrust them to Hanabi. The thought made Hiyashi feel like a man who had won at life. An elder suggested Lady Hinata and Lord Izayoi would make the perfect match, a talented man and a beautiful woman. Clan head, you should announce their relationship as soon as possible. Indeed, Hinata's feelings for Izayoi are clear, and Izayoi has brought Hinata back many times. It's mutual affection. We should not obstruct them, another elder agreed. I heard Lord Izayoi's home was damaged during the Chunin exams and he's currently staying with the Uchiha clan. It would be wise to let Lord Izayoi move into the Hyuga residence. Yes. The elder's eagerness to marry Hinata off made Hiyashi's mouth twitch. If he weren't as young and low in formal seniority, he would have spoken up. Elders, mind your dignity, but because of his youth, he remained outwardly restrained. Still, he couldn't understand the elder's fanaticism about wood release. Clan head, what do you think of our suggestion? They pressed, turning to him. Hiyashi thought a moment and then said slowly, the younger generation should decide their own affairs. But the elders are right. Hinata clearly has someone she cares for, and the feeling is mutual. We should not stand in the way. Then, for Hinata's birthday, invite Izayoi to the banquet, an elder proposed. At that, the elders' faces lit up. Excellent. When we hold Hinata's birthday, we'll be sure to invite Lord Izayoi. It will show our goodwill. And give the clan a chance to meet the future son-in-law, a perfect opportunity. As expected of the clan head, thinking of the younger generation. It's decided then, Hinata's birthday banquet must be grand. Watching the elders chatter on, Hiyashi felt increasingly incredulous. From now on, those once revered elders would lose some of his respect. But inside he was pleased, excited in that comfortable, satisfied way of a man who believes he has secured the future. Chapter 98, Hashirama Cells, Reactions from All Sides. Kid, get ready for a different life. When Izanami emerged from the Hokage building, he was taken aback by the scene outside. The main street was packed with people. As soon as the crowd saw the three of them, him, Sasuke, and Karin, the murmur rose into a full-throated buzz. Look, that handsome young man with black hair is Izanami. He's so tall. I heard he's in the same class as my kid and the top student at the Ninja Academy. His hair is the same color as the first Hokage's, as expected of a Senju descendant. I saw his fight in the Chunin exams. He doesn't just fly, his ninjutsu is insanely powerful. This is amazing. Konoha has a wood-release ninja again. Nobody will dare pick on us anymore. That demon, that incident won't ever happen again. The villagers' voices poured over him, their eyes bright with excitement. Some faces were almost fanatical, as if they wanted to rush forward and mob him. Izanami quickly took Sasuke and Karin by the hands and flew off down Central Street. The cheers grew louder as they rose. For a moment, Izanami felt the same kind of adoration Naruto had been shown in the original timeline. He also understood just how much wood release meant to Konoha. Both the Senju's wood release and the Uchiha's Sharingan were legendary bloodline limits. As the last of the Uchiha, Sasuke might have drawn crowds hoping to glimpse the Sharingan, but wood release sent the entire village into a different kind of fervor. Clans and ninjas alike saw Izanami as Konoha's future. Morale lifted. The fear that had lingered since the Konoha Crush plans began faded. People felt safe again, no longer terrified of the Nine-Tails running wild, or foreign armies invading, or sudden war. The legend of the ninja god and the myth of the Six-Path Sage were household stories. Everyone knew what wood release had accomplished. Pacifying chaos, suppressing tailed beasts, one man standing against armies. If you stepped to the outskirts and looked at the dense forests of towering trees, you could feel the strength of that legacy. Wood release was Konoha's backbone. Theoretical artifacts like the Sage's Eye were obscure and unproven. Wood release was tangible, visible, real. You won't have any peace from now on." Sasuke, clinging at Izanami's waist, grinned. "When you go on dates with Hinata, you'll be watched like a monkey." He never finished. Izanami let go and Sasuke plummeted for a moment before a wooden vine wrapped around his waist and stopped his fall. Suspended beneath Izanami's flying form, Sasuke's expression shifted from smug to deadly pale. Izanami yanked the vine, and Sasuke became a human yo-yo, tossed, swung, spun, smashed down, and hauled up again. When Izanami finally dropped him off, Sasuke's face was splotched purple and green. He staggered to the side, nauseous and retching, clinging to a wall. I'll kill you, you bastard," he managed through a wave of bile. Izanami's next words cut the rage short. "Do you still want the gift?" "Yes." Sasuke's tone went meek and resentful at once. Karin, standing nearby, forced a laugh that sounded like a suppressed sob. She covered her mouth and then hurried off to help cook, shoulders shaking. Izanami produced a small red scroll, opened it with a flick, and produced a metal combination box. He punched in the code and opened it. 2 rows of test tubes filled with green liquid gleamed inside. Sasuke's eyes went wide. "What is this?" "Hashirama cells," Izanami said. Sasuke's face changed instantly. "The first Hokage's cells? How do you have this?" "Good question," Izanami said with a smile. "You should ask why the village keeps this stuff." Sasuke's expression went uncertain. Not an idiot, he put the pieces together. "The village did experiments with wood release?" "Right," Izanami nodded. "I found this when I was stealing something. I learned a few very interesting things, including secrets tied to your Uchiha Sharingan." "What secrets?" "Wait," Sasuke began. Then realization hit him, and he widened his eyes. "Is this the risky method you mentioned before to get stronger?" "You're quick," Izanami said, mildly surprised. He didn't hide anything. "Your Uchiha eyes keep evolving past the 1 to 3 Tomoe stage." "Mangekyo Sharingan," Sasuke cut in, his voice a razor of killing intent. "Itachi's eyes, those are beyond 3 Tomoe." "Let me finish," Izanami said, rolling his eyes. "Yes, those eyes, the Mangekyo, grant tremendous and unique jutsu, but every time you use those techniques, they eat away at your sight. Use them too much, and you'll go blind." Sasuke's pupils dilated. "Really? You'll go blind?" "I found that to be true, but there are 2 remedies." Izanami flashed a peace sign and grinned at Sasuke. "First, transplant the Mangekyo of a close relative. With that, the eye power becomes eternal." Sasuke's features froze, then flickered through a parade of emotions. Astonishment, realization, fury, hatred. His Sharingan flared to 3 Tomoe and began to whirl as his brain flooded with yin chakra and negative feeling. He laughed coldly through clenched teeth. "So that's why Itachi let me go and told me to take revenge, so I could be his spare eyes." The hate that had lived in Sasuke's chest crystallized into a purer, harder thing. Izanami didn't correct him. Instead, he took out a test tube and said, "The second method is transplanting Hashirama cells. That's from the village's research. Scientists found that Hashirama cells can stabilize the Sharingan. If a non-Uchiha has the Sharingan, transplant Hashirama cells to reduce the side effects. For a Mangekyo user, Hashirama cells don't just lower technique consumption, they can regenerate lost eye power." He left one crucial detail out. If Hashirama cells were transplanted into an Uchiha, the cells would stimulate the Indra chakra inside, rapidly awakening and amplifying the potential of their eyes. "However," Izanami added, turning serious, "like Konoha's experiments to make another wood release user, which haven't produced a second Senju, it's risky. If the transplant fails, the result is death." He watched Sasuke's face as if savoring a reaction. "So, want to try?" "Yes," Sasuke said without hesitation. Izanami tilted his head. "Aren't you afraid of dying?" "I don't care about death if I can't avenge Itachi," Sasuke said, smiling with cold confidence. "But I trust you won't let me die." "I'll at least pick up the pieces if you die," Izanami muttered, then snapped the test tube back into the box and locked it. Sasuke looked at him uncertainly. "You're not going to help me with the transplant?" "I'm not a doctor or a scientist." Izanami stood and stretched. "Let's eat first. Tomorrow we'll clear the clan lands and the river forest. In a couple of days, I'll take you to someone who can do the injection." Sasuke masked his curiosity and nodded obediently. News like this could hardly be kept secret. The same day the village learned, so did the Land of Fire. Within 2 days, it had spread throughout the ninja world. Izanami's photos and details were dispatched to high-ranking figures everywhere. No surprise, since Konoha pushed the story. A prodigy must be protected, and a newly graduated wood-release ninja who had already mastered 5 nature transformations, invented several hand-signed free techniques, and learned to fly, was more than a child to hide. He was a symbol. His power alone could challenge the Kage. His flight made him exceptionally dangerous. Pushing him forward was the right move. Konoha had lost the 3rd Hokage and some elders, and Root had dwindled. Even with Tsunade as the 5th Hokage, the village looked weakened. A weakened Konoha risks losing clients, invites other villages to covet its missions, and draws the ire of smaller countries. At a time like this, wood release was an enormous deterrent. Countries that still feared Konoha's old legends would think twice before fomenting war. Iwagakure, Land of Earth. Konoha's fate simply won't be to be destroyed, Onoki murmured, staring at the photo of the young man. The sight brought him back to a memory of holding a picture of a young blonde Senju years ago, and an old irritation flared. Whenever they're desperate, that village finds incredible talent. Do they just have the best resources? He shook off the personal grudge and worried aloud. At this age, he has 10, maybe 20 years until his prime. Now is the time to deal with him. But this old man cannot afford to gamble. Iwagakure cannot afford to gamble either. A sharp glint passed through Onoki's eyes. He might be unwilling to gamble personally, but others would. He drifted to a window, looked toward the Land of Rain, and added softly, "The Ambu squad disappeared without a trace. Could the legend of the sage really be true? If it's the sage's eye, could that counter wood release?" Kumogakure, Land of Lightning. Bluffing. The 4th Raikage snorted as he read the intelligence reports. Even if it's the legendary wood release, how much can a brat really unleash? Exposing him now proves Konoha is running out of talent. If it wasn't for that thing with Karui, meaning I owe you one Tsunade, I would have already shown you what the strongest village can do. Tsunagakure, Land of Wind. What a smart play. Chiyo, acting Kazekage, read the file and breathed out a small, thoughtful sigh. Letting the Senju drop their surname and fully integrate into Konoha was meant to bridge the gap between clans and civilians, and it gave the Senju a path to thrive inside the village. 1st Hokage, 2nd Hokage. It seems they expected this. She looked at Gaara, recently redeemed and studying hard, slowly regaining his family ties, and spoke in a gentler voice. "Gaara, when you become Kazekage, don't make an enemy of Konoha. Use the advantage of being allied." She let the rest hang unsaid, the implication obvious. Wood release was the natural nemesis of tailed beasts. Gaara flinched slightly, not fully understanding, but he nodded. Chapter 99, Black Zetsu's Grievances, Izayoi's Bounty Land of Rain, Hidden Rain Village, a wood release ninja, and someone with a second pair of Rinnegan. Pando stared at the photo and intelligence Konan handed him, expressionless. It seems fate's trials continue. To become a true god, I must pass them all. No one will stop me from achieving peace. While Tendo Pain struck a dramatic pose, Uchiha Obito and the black and white Zetsu were far less theatrical and far more restless. First that mysterious person, White Zetsu complained, and now an orthodox wood release user. Why are unexpected things popping up everywhere lately? Obito frowned as he read through the dossier on Izayoi. The Ninetales attack. Fine that brat didn't die. To have this level of wood release at his age, he didn't just wake it up by chance. How did he endure it? Doesn't he know how dangerous wood release is? If he exposes it, Konoha will throw everything into cultivating him. If Izayoi's wood release had been exposed earlier, Obito would have eliminated the threat when he was wiping out the Uchiha clan. But now, 5 nature transformations, an advanced Rasengan, the ability to fly, wood release. Unless he could strike first, even Obito might be helpless. Flight, especially, was the last thing Obito wanted to face. Do you people really think he's that mysterious person? White Zetsu blurted out. Obito snapped, "Can a Rinnegan revert to a normal state?" White Zetsu immediately shut up. Of course a Rinnegan can revert, but only if it evolved from your own eyes. Black Zetsu mulled it over and concluded the same thing. Izayoi couldn't be that mysterious figure. If he were the mysterious person and also had Rinnegan, that would mean, before he'd even graduated, he'd achieved the union of extremes Madara only reached near death. Impossible. To reach that place, you'd have to be an incarnation of Asura or Indra, push Sage Body or Sharingan to its limits, then amass phenomenal Yang or Yin power and merge them to birth creation itself. It's absurdly difficult and takes ages. Black Zetsu had spent 1,000 years just to make a second pair of Rinnegan. There was no way a freshly graduated kid could do that. Even transplanted Rinnegan behave like Nagatos in youth. They don't reveal their full potential right away, and transplanted Rinnegan can't revert to normal. If Izayoi were from the Moon's line, he'd have white hair and Byakugan eyes. Izayoi didn't match any of that. He was simply a fortunate child, a wood-release user, unexpectedly born from the Senju bloodline, left behind by Hashirama after decades of sedimentation. His future would never rival Hashirama's Sage Body, but he'd inherited Tobirama's talent for ninjutsu. At this age, he'd mastered multiple nature transformations and even explored storm and dust release. Given Konoha's full cultivation, in ninjutsu he might become a second Tobirama, yet another massive threat to the infinite Tsukiyomi plan. Black Zetsu swore silently. Of course it had to be now. Damn Hagoromo and Hamura, long dead and yet still bringing me trouble. His grievances were no one's concern. Once word of Izayoi's abilities spread through the ninja world, his bounty appeared on the black market, 180 million ryo. For perspective, Asuma Sarutobi, an elite jonin, a guardian shinobi 12-member and son of the Hokage, had a bounty of only 35 million. A recent graduate at the top of the black market list for 180 millionth. Ryo showed exactly how terrified the powers that be were of wood release and how much they were willing to pay to control or eliminate it. Izayoi had no idea. If he did, he would have smiled with the same disdain Sasuke wore. How cute. This money won't even buy the land for my new home, he might have thought. The whole bounty business showed how little value they put on ninjas, mere tools, even bloodline limit holders who had pacified the chaotic world. Meanwhile, Izayoi was busy. Between teaching Uchiha Sasuke the Super Hurricane Serial Spheres training method, he was using Storm Release Judgment to regulate the logging power. It took 2 full days to clear the towering trees in the Uchiha district and along the Nanga River. During that time, Hinata and Karin did the most work. Sasuke's Chidori still ran out of chakra before severing a single enormous tree that took a dozen people to hug. In contrast, Karin and Hinata, both having learned Strength of 100, treated those trees like punching bags. With huge chakra reserves and incredible endurance, they could fell dozens of large trees a day together, which stung Sasuke's pride. Rookies dropped by in waves over those 2 days. Izayoi's fame had exploded, bigger than most celebrities. Izayoi, you've been hiding all this time. I thought I misheard, but it really is you. A descendant of the Senju clan with wood release, treat us to a meal. Pinned down by a swarm of fair-weather friends, Izayoi had no choice but to host a banquet at Sasuke's place. Fortunately, the group was at least useful enough to help with the logging afterward, though aside from Uzumaki Naruto, the contributions were minimal. Naruto, using multiple shadow clones and Rasengan combos, had done the most work, and Izayoi rewarded him privately with a ninjutsu scroll. Wind Release, Vacuum Great Sphere. In the 5 elements, it's on par with the Uchiha's Fire Release, Great Dragon Fire technique. Common, low level, but very useful. Naruto was ecstatic. After all, he'd begged Kakashi so persistently to learn Wind Release, Great Breakthrough, that Kakashi had finally taught him one technique and no more. If he hadn't learned Rasengan from the Pervy Sage, Naruto might still only know that single move. Getting a scroll from Izayoi, who ranked up there with the 3rd Hokage and Iruka, felt like being acknowledged by someone he admired. He left like a kid with a new toy. On the veranda afterwards, Karin wiped sweat off her forehead and sighed. 2 days and we barely cleared this much. Imagine Izayoi releasing Wood Release, Advent of a World of Flowering Trees on a battlefield. Hinata nodded, eyes shining. She hadn't seen that technique on the field, but these 2 days made it easy to understand why the clan elders had been gushing about Izayoi lately, hinting that she should announce her relationship with him. Wood Release was terrifyingly powerful. Quiet joy warmed Hinata. If the elders approved and her father wouldn't object, she could confess and there'd be no obstacles. But after being interrupted by Izayoi before, she no longer had the courage to bring it up herself. She was simply too timid. Izayoi, having bid the rookies farewell, used wood release, 3 rooms and 1 living room technique, and wood release, 4 pillars house technique to mend the damage his tree world advent had caused in the Uchiha district. Land like this could be valuable if Konoha developed it. He wouldn't damage his junior's property. After restoring the neighborhood, he told Sasuke, who was lounging casually, "Go pack your things. We'll leave soon." Sasuke's expression lit up. "Okay." He vanished with Shunshin to gather his gear. Izayoi told the 2 girls the plan. Karin, suddenly shy, blinked. "Izayoi-kun, you're going out with Sasuke-kun? I'll stay at Hinata's place for a while. When will you be back?" "Can't say for sure," Izayoi said with a smile. "If we're fast, 2 or 3 days. If it's slow, maybe over a week. You 2 need to train harder while I'm gone. When I come back, Sasuke might leave you both behind." The girls exchanged a startled look, then nodded vigorously. "If Hinata's free, help supervise construction," Izayoi added. "If nobody watches, accidents could delay the new house." "Leave it to me, Izayoi-kun," Hinata said softly. After a few more words, Izayoi returned to his room for his things, then met Sasuke at the Nanga River to apply for an exit permit. Their destination was the land of rice fields. The person Izayoi planned to enlist for Sasuke's treatment was Orochimaru. More precisely, Orochimaru's knowledge combined with Yakushi Kabuto's surgical skill. Izayoi had a medical genius trait, but hadn't studied medical ninjutsu in depth. He was confident he could handle any complications from transplanting Hashirama cells with wood release, but a specialist would be better. Orochimaru also had the Ryuchi Cave summoning scroll, useful not only for enhancing Sasuke's strength, but as an alternative if Tsunade and the Slug Sage refused Hinata's contract with Shikatsu Forest. If Izayoi ever wanted to learn sage techniques, a visit to one of the great sage lands would be an option. So they had to find Orochimaru. On the way, Sasuke's eyes widened. "You're taking me to Orochimaru? Are you insane? That guy's after my Sharingan. What if we can't get away?" "Don't worry," Izayoi said. "He's not the same Orochimaru from the Death Forest. During the Chunin exams, the 3rd Hokage sealed his hand's souls. He can't use his old ninjutsu, and his body's collapsing. He's at his weakest. The village will soon extract whatever info they can from the corpses. When that happens, they'll come after him and he'll be harder to find." Izayoi looked Sasuke in the eye and smiled confidently. "Besides, you trust me, right? Would I bring you here if I wasn't sure?" Sasuke let out a relieved breath. It wasn't that Izayoi didn't believe in Sasuke's own abilities, but it had only been 3 months since that exam in the Death Forest. Sasuke still recalled the overwhelming killing intent that had made him vomit. He didn't know that with his current genjutsu eyes, even a fully capable Orochimaru would struggle against him. The land of rice fields lay north of the land of fire. From Konoha, they crossed dense forest and grassland, passing through the Valley of the End, carved by the ninja god with the secrets of wood release, and reached the land of rice fields in just over half a day by Shunshin. Izayoi and Sasuke boosted themselves with lightning release chakra to increase speed. Izayoi already knew Orochimaru's base location. After leaving Konoha, the shadow clone guarding Ranmaru had trailed and watched him return to his underground base across half the land of fire. Orochimaru hadn't killed Danzo back then because of the Hashirama cells. He'd planned to use them to strengthen Sasuke and increase his own bargaining power. Izayoi smashed his fist into the ground. A terrifying burst of chakra tore open an entrance to the underground base. He led Sasuke inside. Before they'd taken a few steps, a group of sound ninjas blocked the corridor. Izayoi grinned. "Here's a test. Deal with these guys, then look for me." He was gone like a wind. The sound ninja felt a rush of air as he vanished. Sasuke, eyes bleeding with the 3 Tomoe Sharingan, watched Izayoi's passing and his expression flickered. Lightning release nature transformation and wind release nature transformation. Izayoi. Inside, lightning release stimulated Izayoi's cells, while a wind release cloak reduced air resistance, high-speed movement achieved through elemental fusion. Sasuke couldn't help but curl his lips in excitement. "I saw it. Once I learn wind release nature transformation, I'll be able to do that." His body blurred like lightning as he took off. Izayoi moved through the corridors in a flash, arriving in a dim, poorly lit chamber. Before him lay Orochimaru, wrapped in bandages, his body fraying at the edges, blood seeping from countless pores. He looked like a puppet about to fall apart. Izayoi raised a hand and greeted him coolly. "Yo, we meet again, Lord Orochimaru." Chapter 100, Orochimaru's Analysis, Izayoi's True Side. The Sound 4 and Kimimaro were only stepping stones, as expected. Orochimaru showed no panic when Izayoi appeared before him. Instead, a hoarse laugh escaped his lips. On his bandaged face, his yellow, vertical pupils glittered with fervor and greed. "I guessed you were a late awakening descendant of either the Whirlpool clan or the Senju," he said, "but you're even more remarkable than I imagined. Your talent for ninjutsu approaches the second Hokage's, and you've awakened the first Hokage's Kekkei Genkai. What surprises me most is that you awakened Wood Release long ago and knew how to hide it. After Tsunade took office, you seized the opportunity to become Konoha's hope. This was no crude stunt or mere precocity. Besides Senju blood, I suspect you're also a Whirlpool clan descendant. You've awakened the mind's eye of the Kagura and have seen much of Konoha's corruption up close." Orochimaru's certainty in that last sentence was clear. He had planted countless spies in Konoha and had gathered intimate details about Izayoi. The first 6 years of Izayoi's life had been unremarkable. The latter 6 had been spent inseparably with the Hyuga heiress, a civilian prodigy in the mold of Minato. Orochimaru had assumed Izayoi sought the Hyuga connection to climb the clan ladder, but it was a disguise. Izayoi had known about his Wood Release and concealed it, biding his time until his clansmen became Hokage and could vouch for him. Only then did he reveal his trump card. If he truly wanted to, Orochimaru thought, Izayoi could have used Wood Release to subdue the Ichibi Jinchuriki during the Chunin exams. This man was far more scheming and dangerous than he appeared. Before Izayoi could reply, Orochimaru smiled and stated his guess aloud. "You came to take my head and clear the way to become 6th Hokage, didn't you?" Izayoi didn't know he'd already been labeled a master schemer in Orochimaru's eyes. He merely applauded the analysis, then praised sincerely. "As expected of Orochimaru. From so little information you deduced I might have both Senju and Whirlpool blood." Whoosh! A green afterimage flickered behind Izayoi, bright in the dim room. "Orochimaru, run!" Yakushi Kabuto shouted as the chakra scalpel in his hand thrust toward the back of Izayoi's neck. He hadn't realized how fearsome a Wood Release user who didn't need hand seals could be. Izayoi didn't flinch. His back rippled, and wooden vines shot out like octopus tentacles, wrapping around Kabuto's limbs and torso. Blue chakra flowed back along the vines into Izayoi. Orochimaru's expression leapt to fanaticism. "Absorbing chakra, genuine Wood Release," he declared. Wood Release is a versatile Kekkei Genkai, offense, defense, long-range techniques, flight, burrowing, sealing, but Orochimaru and the old guards who'd witnessed the first Hokage's experiments knew its true might. Chakra absorption. When an enemy is tangled in its branches, their chakra is drained and becomes nourishment, hardening the wood. The more chakra the enemy has, the stronger the Wood Release becomes. The more you fight, the weaker you become, and the stronger the wood grows. That's why the tailed beasts were playthings for the first Hokage. Seeing Izayoi's Wood Release absorb chakra, Orochimaru confirmed he was not an artificial experiment of the village, but a true Senju descendant. In Orochimaru's mind, Izayoi had just become, as a reincarnation vessel, even more perfect than Uchiha Sasuke. If he could possess Izayoi's body, combined with his knowledge and Izayoi's bloodline, Orochimaru would not fear Itachi, nor the Akatsuki leader with the Rinnegan. Even so, with his current weakened condition, he wasn't strong enough to simply seize the boy. Fortunately, he had other options. Orochimaru calmed himself and studied Izayoi, who had subdued Kabuto without moving. He smiled. "Izayoi, Kabuto acted out of loyalty and meant no harm. My present body is nearly collapsed. I doubt I can reincarnate in the usual way. How about a bargain? I'll give you my head if you spare Kabuto's life." Kabuto's eyes widened with tears of gratitude, a fine bit of acting. If Izayoi hadn't known Orochimaru's motives, he might have been fooled. After finishing draining Kabuto's chakra and wrapping him like a zongzi with the vines, Izayoi was about to speak when another afterimage appeared beside him. Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke. Orochimaru's surprise flickered, then his eyes went feverish. Two perfect vessels before him at once was like presenting two unconscious beauties to a degenerate. If he still had his full power, he might have made a reckless attempt. Izayoi with wood release and Sasuke with an enhanced Sharingan made a dangerous pair. Such disgusting eyes. Sasuke scowled at Orochimaru's stare. Is this guy really trustworthy? Sasuke asked, disgust clear in his voice. Orochimaru is still notorious, Izayoi said with a smile. Orochimaru's eyes gleamed. So you didn't come to kill me? I didn't say I came to kill you, Orochimaru, Izayoi answered calmly. Although wood release has already paved my way, your head would only be icing on the cake. Heh, true, Orochimaru nodded. So you brought Sasuke to see me. What do you want? I've come to make a deal with you, Izayoi said. He produced 2 scrolls from his body and handed them to Sasuke beside him. Sasuke understood immediately, opened the seals, and summoned their contents. With 2 soft pops, smoke curled away to reveal a white Zetsu clone and a small metal lockbox. Orochimaru focused on the clone with startled interest. This is? Zetsu? You know of him? Izayoi feigned ignorance. This one can merge with earth and vegetation. If I didn't have wood release and he was hiding, I might never have discovered him. Heh, that's a clone of an Akatsuki member called Zetsu. Orochimaru composed himself and said to Sasuke, Akatsuki is the mercenary group Uchiha Itachi joined after he defected. Sasuke's brows tightened, a flash of killing intent crossing his eyes as he recalled the name. This body is a bit special, gifted by me to Orochimaru, Izayoi added. Izayoi crouched and pried the white Zetsu clone's mouth open, smiling at Orochimaru. Your current body should be gone within days. Would you like to reincarnate into this one now? Orochimaru fell silent. He had no choice. The bandages on his face snapped, and he opened his mouth wide, spitting a white phosphorus serpent that shot toward Izayoi and Sasuke. Sasuke flinched back. Izayoi opened the clone's mouth wider and did not break his smile. After scanning Izayoi and Sasuke with his yellow eyes, the serpent obediently dove into the white Zetsu clone's mouth. The clone writhed, its skin shifted to a human tone and clothes formed out of thin air. In moments, it took on Orochimaru's own appearance. This body, Orochimaru now in a new form, slowly stood, disbelief and delight warring in his eyes. Nobody but Izayoi could read his true mood. Immortality reincarnation had weaknesses. When stealing a vessel, the vessel resisted in the mental space, weakening the intruder's spirit and leaving them vulnerable as their soul adapted to the new body. But Orochimaru felt no such after-effects. His spirit was intact, and his soul didn't need to adjust. This corpse fit him as if it were his original body before he learned the technique. Best of all, this body was merely a clone. Zetsu harbored a huge secret. Orochimaru realized this and licked his lips with a smirk. There were still hidden tricks in the world of immortality eyes. Izayoi's amused voice floated in. It seems you like this body, Orochimaru. Orochimaru turned his gaze on Izayoi, who regarded him calmly, as if ignoring him entirely. He narrowed his eyes and let out a hoarse laugh. Heh, I like it very much. So, what is your offer? Izayoi's next words drained the smile from Orochimaru's face. Do you want the Reaper death seal undone? Who? Orochimaru breathed heavily. So, do you know how? Originally I didn't, Izayoi lied without a flicker, but I recently met a Whirlpool clansman and learned it. The Reaper death seal is a whirlpool sealing technique. It sacrifices the user's soul to summon the Shinigami and seal a target's soul, a forbidden life-for-a-life technique. And the method? Orochimaru asked quickly. You must find the legendary Shinigami mask, have a person act as the sacrifice to summon the Shinigami, give their soul, and then retrieve the soul from inside the Shinigami's belly. Izayoi teased like bait, palms spread. As for where the mask is, I don't know. Orochimaru listened, half enlightened and half skeptical. Izayoi had at least pointed him in a possible direction. He could now investigate Whirlpool Clan's secrets. Orochimaru brightened. This information is important. What do you want from me? I want something. And help for Sasuke with a surgery, Izayoi said. He opened the metal lockbox. Orochimaru's eyes widened. Hashirama cells? Orochimaru recognized them instantly and instinctively ignored the earlier words. Most of this was in Danzo's possession, wasn't it? He was killed by the Akatsuki leader. Izayoi, you really didn't know Zetsu? I don't know him, Izayoi lied again, smiling. I found this in the Hokage building. If that guy with the Rinnegan hadn't broken through the Hokage building's sensing barrier and caused chaos, I wouldn't have been able to sneak in and steal the wood release scroll and these. Orochimaru's expression shifted. He understood at last why Izayoi had the wood release technique, deep forest emergence. It hadn't been inherited. It was lifted from the Forbidden Scroll archive. Sasuke, observing, pieced together where Izayoi had gotten the genjutsu and fire release scrolls and other forbidden techniques. Seeing the Hashirama cells and Sasuke's three Tomoe Sharingan together made Orochimaru smile. "It seems you know quite a lot," he said. "Yes," Izayoi replied, his smile gentle. "So don't try any tricks, understood?" His tone made Sasuke feel steadier. "If I catch you playing games, I'll kill you." There was no chakra explosion, but Izayoi's words chilled the already dim underground room. Yakushi Kabuto, bound and defeated, broke out in a cold sweat. Even Orochimaru felt the pressure. He'd only felt this kind of presence from Uchiha Itachi in pain. This boy had truly grown. Still on the surface, Izayoi kept smiling. Orochimaru nodded, his smile measured. "No problem. It's a small matter."